What's up, guys? Welcome to our semi-annual tradition of making a tier list. It's the Chart Guys. With me today are four of my good friends and fellow Chart Guys. We got Aaron Grace, Ed Knight, Taylor Crawford, and William Bradshaw. And guys, I don't want to waste any time with introductions, or we're going to come back to this page. Let's just jump right into the tier list. And let's get this going, because there are 40-something heroes in Blitz that need to be put on a tier list, and, you know, there's a lot of intricacies in Blitz, so I think, you know, normally you just have S to D. That's kind of boring. I added a couple, you know, S+, double S+, and, of course, the fabled triple S+. So let's get going. Let's start off with... where is Professor Teklovossen? I don't even see him. Maybe this is an old...
He's on the right.
He's on the right. He's on the right.
Oh, damn.
He's on the right next to Riptide. In between the
Oh, there he is.
I don't
It looks
recognize
like-
any of these young heroes. It might actually be
Fat
cut
Boy
off by
Riptide.
because it's full screen. But that's okay. We'll use normal
anyone
Teklovossen.
For anyone confused by the rating scale, you get an extra plus the shorter you can end a game. So S+++ heroes are ones that can kill you on the very first turn, and then every turn after that it takes to actually win the game, you get deducted a plus.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
So Kayo with two hands, definitely going into SSS plus tier, right?
Absolutely.
Exactly. All right. Enough bullshit. Happy April Fools.
Happy April Fools.
If you are listening to this, you should have been watching. All right. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the way I want to frame this video. And this is the actual screen we're going to be using. Okay, so we're not going to be using this because there's a lot of nuance. When a lot of people when they make a tier list, they just say, okay, this is S tier, this is B tier, and they just leave it at that. However, at the Chart Guys, we are a little bit more sophisticated, and we are going to be not only providing the strength, which we have in the x-axis. Now, strength means like how good are your cards and how well are you positioned in the metagame. But we will also be providing what we think the meta share of the hero will be. That's the x-axis, right? So the y-axis being viability, x-axis being meta share, and eventually we'll get 4 quadrants. This is very similar to the Worlds tier list that we did like 5 months ago. So if you've watched that, you kind of know what we're going to be doing. But before we get into this, I do want to take a look at this chart first. Okay, so today I gathered up all the data that I could from the last, well, the only tier 4 events. There are 8 of them. And I listed out every hero. I listed out the amount of players playing it, the percentages, and then I broke them down with the team into kind of like this green, yellow, and red. Now, the green represents what was considered at the time to be the meta, or the strongest decks. So all of us have been playing for a very, very long time, so we do remember Leo, we do remember New Jersey. Like, we remember, we have sent a player to every single one of these events, right? So we have at least thought about these things. Now, in general, the top tier decks at tier 4s occupy between 50 to 70%, depending on the metagame. Now, there are certain metagames that are a little bit more open, like Pro Tour Los Angeles was a little bit more open. There are metagames that are a little bit more narrow. Obviously, PT New Jersey, the very first Worlds, there wasn't very many heroes, and there wasn't very many choices. So 50 to 70% of people are going to be playing, quote-unquote, the best decks. But then there's a good amount of people that kind of either are trying to counter the top decks, or they don't really want to play those decks. They just have a personal preference, and they're playing a hero that's pretty good. So we kind of have that in the yellow. And then there's going to be 10 to 15% of people that are silly geese like me, who just play whatever the hell they want to play. So one of the best examples that I like to joke about is Pro Tour Leo. Do you know who this Boltyn is, guys?
It is.
Is that you?
That was me. I joked that I made the graphics designer have to work a little bit harder. So
You
yeah.
ruined the symmetry.
Yeah,
That's great.
I ruined
Oh,
the
yeah.
symmetry of their Pro Tour graphic. I'm sorry. But so basically, there's going to be a certain amount of people that are just going to play whatever they want to play, right? So I think using this data, we can kind of we basically are in one of two situations. We are either in a more defined metagame where we would see like the top X amount of decks occupying 60, 70, 75% of the meta, or we're in a more open meta where, sure, there's some good decks, like Pro Tour Los Angeles is a good example. Yes, Kayo was good, Dromai was good, but they didn't reach 20%. The second most represented deck wasn't even 15, right? But then you look at the just 3 months later, 4 months later, we have Pro Tour Amsterdam. That's a very narrow meta. Zen, before Bonds was banned, or I might be getting
This
my
was
time. This is
That was before MST ever came out.
no. Amsterdam is after.
this was
That's
Red
what I'm
Bonds.
saying.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
They have some of the. This is before the book banning, because
Yeah.
we see Prism AOS is like really, really high. Okay, so basically, even though they were only several months apart, the metagame openness is wildly different, right? So that's kind of what we're going to try to decide is like, are we in more of a open meta, like Pro Tour LA, maybe Worlds in Barcelona, I would also consider pretty open. Or are we in a more, defined metagame like the Lexi Oldham PT3, the Zen new PT5, even the more extreme examples, Starvo at PT1, which was 36% of the meta, right? So that's what we're going to try to aim to figure out today. Now, there are currently 36 heroes in the game, so buckle up. This is going to be a long episode. But let me break down the quadrants for you guys. So over here in the pink is the contenders quadrant. So these are decks that are viable and strong, and are also going to be occupying a pretty large meta share percentage. Even though there's 36 heroes, a lot of these are going to be less than 1%, right? So there should be several decks that are 10+% of the meta, and they're going to go here. We're going to have the purple. This is the Dark Horse section. So these are decks that are strong, or they're in a very, very, very good position, but they may not be popular because they are either hidden gems, or they are very, very difficult to play, or only maybe like a team of like 15 people are bringing this kind of hero, and then like, okay, so all 15 of them are on this. That would be somewhere over here. Green, you don't want to be in the green. This is where the overrated heroes will go. I don't know if there will be any. I do have some hot takes, but we'll see. But basically, if you're down here, that's the recommendation to not take it. Then over here in the blue,
There's always at least one overrated.
There's generally always one overrated hero. Yes. And then over here in the blue is going to be Teklovossen and Olympia and Betsy and all the other heroes that are going to basically crowd down this corner here and overlap with each other. And we won't be... Basically, TLDR, if you can't see your hero, it's in the corner. So... So yeah, all right. So let's start putting some stuff on the map, and we'll kind of go from there. I think let's start off with one of the pillars. Let's just start off by putting some of the high meta percentage heroes first, so that we can kind of check our math and make sure we're not coming up with like 130% or something like that. So let's start off with Aurora. Jeez. There's so many heroes here. It's like taking me a second to find her. There she is. All right, so let's start with Aurora. So this is, well, we did have a little bit of a discussion before the episode began that this may or may not be the most represented hero. So currently, the Aurora builds, they have been doing very, very well since Worlds. They have the upgraded Armory deck with Viscerai leaving. The Runeblade to be playing right now is Aurora. Very, very popular hero during ProQuest season and a fairly stable hero that can adapt to different situations. I've been talking for long enough. Let's kind of open this up for a discussion. Where do you guys think Aurora is in this current metagame? Let's just talk about it.
I mean, she's definitely a contender. I mean, that's just like off the bat. She's going to be in there. It just depends on like where you want to put her. Probably like strength and positioning. I'd probably put her like a 9. Mm-hmm. I think she can be targeted, which is the big thing about her, and the mindset that she is the best deck, but she is a targetable best deck. Mm-hmm. If she is the best deck. So let's
talk. Let's talk a little bit about how to target Aurora, because this is if this is like a clear 20+% of the meta type of hero, everybody and their mom is going to be running some counter cards. So what are some of those counter cards?
0 for 4 D-Reacts.
Yeah, I mean, this is just D-React meta. Like, there aren't enough heroes in the game that either don't care about D-Reacts or have sufficient counters to D-Reacts, and they're just so efficient, and they can easily slot into most heroes in the game right now, especially with the printing of Shelter from the Storm, that just every single deck is going to have them in it, and it's one of the most easy ways to combat what Aurora is doing. Aurora is attacking for 4 on offense, a lot of the times with on hits. The only way to block that, breakpoint, that's a fab staple at this point, is with those breakpoint D-Reacts, unless you just have infinite armor or other ways to prevent damage with repeated effects. But D-Reacts are like your main ways. Aurora can't really block all that well. Her deck is very 2-block heavy. She has a lot of armor, which is one of the reasons why she actually is very resilient. But she's not as crazy consistent as you might think that she would be. A lot of people call her like, oh, she's a lightning ninja, but it's not really the case. She is the deck to beat. She is the default good deck. She has game into pretty much everything out there, and most of the things that could target her heavily have other metagame issues that they would have to deal with. I think a lot of the Viscerai players who just played him because he was the best probably default to either Aurora or Zen, just because it's a similar style of like aggressive deck. We saw, in Sao Paulo and Kobe that Aurora was the most represented by a substantial margin. I think that she's going to still be the highest represented hero by a substantial margin. I think that things that could do as well or better than her, they're not necessarily dark horses, but I think that there are things that a deck has to have a good game plan versus Aurora starting out, and then you work your way around from there. The rest of the meta is all centered around what their matchups look like into Aurora as like a starting point.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so the $1 million question here is this a deck that is going to see more than 20% meta representation or less? So just as a reminder, the top decks of the past sometimes were over 20%, like Zen at PT Amsterdam, Lexi at PT3, Briar at PT2. But sometimes they were less than 20%. So
if like Bond's Zen was 22%, Aurora should be like 17% to 15%. I think throwing her in the same like category as Bond Zen is like insane to me.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
One note is, as of this moment, Zen is still legal for the Pro Tour, so that is,
yes.
We are working under that assumption.
Yes. Let's quickly clarify that. So there are 2 Battle Hardens, and there's one in Dublin, one in Jakarta, and there's also a ProQuest Plus in Kansas. And there are also ProQuest pluses attached to the Battle Hardens. So if Zen wins either of the Battle Hardens, he's gone. If Zen wins 2 of the 3 ProQuest plus, he's gone. So the chance that he's gone, 20, 30%? Like, it's not
So-
zero.
Yeah.
So,
Not
like,
zero.
if you're going to London, bring an extra deck that you can sell for an extremely high price to your Zen buddy.
Yeah.
That's what I'm hearing.
You can also ask me. I'll have 2 warrior decks. And then we'll have 1 more warrior at the Pro Tour.
Oh, sweet!
I'll love to see it. All right. Okay, so I think it's safe to just... I like Taylor's analysis of like about 17%. It feels like this is like a solid front-running, like metagame leading deck, but it's not overwhelmingly like... It's strong, but it's not like... I mean, there's 36 heroes at this point. She has some weaknesses, and you know there are other heroes that also do powerful things, even if they have some metagame holes. So
I think one thing that's really relevant right now for Aurora specifically is that while I know she has a lot of fans, she's a very cool hero, but there are a lot of people who really just don't want to play her, even though she is good, because the mirror matches can be very obnoxious and seemingly low agency. I've talked to a lot of people who just dread doing that, or you know, they don't want to play Aurora because you just feel like you're just at the mercy of the draw a lot of the times. And I don't think that any of that makes her a bad hero, but there are definitely people who are maybe going to be steered towards something else that's more comfortable to them, as long as it's in the realm of competitive viability. And a lot of these other decks that are kind of around that top echelon, you know, like the Mistveil heroes or the resurgence of the Earth heroes and stuff like that. Any player who is more comfortable on those are going to more than likely lean into that, just because they might not feel like they have an edge playing the best deck. So I feel like that'll kind of raise up the percentage points on a lot of the other heroes, maybe more than a different meta where like the best deck was just so unbeatable that everyone just felt like they had to play it. I don't think that the Aurora Armory deck and the way that these tournaments recently have played out have kind of showed that is the case.
All right. So I mentioned briefly that we had a little bit of discussion whether or not Aurora is going to be the most represented deck. And our other hero that we were chatting about was Enigma. Now, we have, obviously, we have one of the very, very, very best Enigma players in the world in this video call. So let's get his thoughts on that. Ed.
Okay. Yeah, let me.
Oh man.
So Ed, tell me about Enigma versus Guardian.
Oh yeah, that's awful. If you want me to start with this, it's like impossible. So now, yeah, I'm glad you're talking about Enigma first, because if you brought in a Guardian here, we'd be talking about Enigma anyway, right? But basically every Guardian deck is pushed out by MST in general, but predominantly Enigma just being a absolute auto loss in the hands of a good player. And when you're going to a Pro Tour, you have to assume that you're playing against the good players, right? Most of the time, people are going to be, there might be some people that, pick the deck because they think it's well positioned, but a lot of times, because they have the option to go to Aurora, which is an easier deck to play and also a good deck, most of the Enigmas I would expect to be, strong players in general with that hero specifically, right? So with that being said, it's impossible for Guardian. Pretty much every single one of them.
Fair enough. All right, we'll talk about Guardians in a little bit, but Aaron, tell me a little bit about Enigma's position at the moment, and do you think that there's an argument for there being possibly more Enigmas than Auroras at Pro Tour 6?
I think that Enigma will definitely be one of the most played heroes. I think that the cat's out of the bag a little bit with some of the recent results on how good she is. I think one of her biggest advantages is that she has game into the current suite of aggro decks. Aurora being the deck to beat when you compare like that matchup, Aurora versus Enigma. I mean, you're going to have some people who say it's super one-sided one way or the other. People are going to argue about that all day. I think whatever side you're on, it's safe to say that it's close enough that it's not going to dissuade people who are comfortable with Enigma off of it. I think that matchup is totally reasonable, even if you expect Aurora to be the best deck. And you get the excellent advantage of beating almost everything else in the game. Any random rogue deck that you see, you're probably favored into it, or you at least have the tools to be able to beat them. The other aggro decks are very similar to Aurora in their difficulty, some of them being a little bit better. I think like Cindra as an aggro deck is a little bit of a harder matchup sometimes, but Cindra has really fallen off in popularity. Well, she was played at the callings at high levels, but her conversion was pretty bad. So I think people have kind of caught on that she's not that great. So you don't really have to worry about Cindra all that much. And Zen is a very close matchup with Enigma. And then everything else you just beat. And all the decks that are trying to target Enigma, like Florian or Verdance, or not Enigma, Aurora, like Florian, Verdance, Assassins, Prism, Warriors, whatever, Vynnset even, all of these decks kind of struggle against Enigma. So if you are very comfortable in your aggro matchups as Enigma, you just have like a slam dunk meta spread. Yep. In terms of like meta share and playability, it's like Enigma's. I'm not gonna say Enigma is rocket science, but I think for a lot of people, like Ed said, who are just jumping on a hero recently for this Pro Tour because they have reevaluated the meta, or maybe they're a Viscerai refugee or something. Going into something like Aurora or Zen has a much lower barrier for entry, I think, generally than something like Enigma. And even if she has a high meta rep, I don't think that her conversion would probably be as good as maybe some other heroes. But I do think that she is very, very powerful in the same territory of like Aurora. So I would be surprised if she was played more than Aurora. I'll just say that. But I mean, I guess I could see a world where that's the case. But
illusionists do seem to have kind of like a cap and a floor in terms of playability. There's a lot of people that are just going to play illusionists whether or not they're good or bad. And there's a certain amount of people that are like, I don't really like having a board state and dealing with these things and all that. Enigma mirrors are pretty much the only thing that you're like a little bit hesitant to play, it seems like.
Yeah, I mean, I made fun of the Aurora mirrors earlier, but like Enigma mirrors also are kind of annoying. I don't think it's like miserable. I actually think illusionist mirrors are always a little swingy. One way or the other, they can snowball out of control very quickly. You do have some agency and the ability to outplay it if you know what you're doing, but there are some play patterns that could just be totally out of your control if your opponent draws the right cards at the right time, especially with some of the specific interactions in the Enigma mirror. I don't hate it as much as I disliked like Dromai mirrors and stuff in the past, but I don't like it as much as I enjoyed like old Prism mirrors. But I think that Enigma players are just kind of used to that, and they're probably fine. And a lot of illusionist players have a really big ego, so they usually think that they're always going to win the mirrors.
Prism versus Enigma is one of those that I always hear. Yeah, I'm favored.
Yeah.
You guys go have fun with swinging your angels and ward on each other. Sure.
Prism is another interesting wild card because it's like we have two illusionists who are both actually pretty reasonable right now in the meta. Yep. Which isn't usually the case, and they're very different than each other.
Yeah.
So,
that's a great point.
Where would you put Enigma in terms of meta share and power? Now, just to preface this is in the hands of an expert pilot. Not every player at the Pro Tour, even though it's the Pro Tour, is going to be an expert, especially at these meta decks, because there are people that hop on.
Yeah, I mean, when we talk about like strength, we're probably talking about like, obviously in the hands of a Pro Tour player who knows what they're doing. I mean, I think that at her best, Enigma is. I put her like for now at the same level as Aurora. To be honest, I think these are the two. Like, if I was doing a normal tier list, I would put these two heroes in S tier, and then everything else I think is at least a semi-step below it.
Eventually we'll kind of have like a little bit of a ladder, so it'll.
Yeah, and I think she's going to be played less than Aurora. Looking at the other heroes, for me, it just depends on like how many people end up bringing the other Mistvale heroes. If Zen kind of explodes,
LLs, you think they would jump on Enigma?
No, I'm saying like I think that Zen hasn't been talked about nearly as much as Aurora has been, and I don't know if that's because of his impending LL or I never get into like sandbag conspiracy and stuff like that about people not playing it because they want to play it in Pro Tour. But I think that Zen is very solid, and I think there's going to be a lot of people who are like planning on bringing Zen to Pro Tour for that. And I think that there's always going to be a bunch of new players just because that deck can just randomly beat almost anything, and people who play new just really like playing Assassin. And while I don't think it's as strong as some of the other choices, I think that people are going to play it. So I think Mistvale is going to be very highly represented, but I do think that even though Enigma, I think, is the best of the three, I don't think that she's going to have a bunch of players just jumping on her bandwagon when they have the other two Chi heroes to also play. So
it's like 12%.
I mean, I think around there is probably fair. Okay. She's definitely in that quadrant.
Mm-hmm. Sure, we'll leave her at 12. There is something actually very, very interesting that you kind of touched on, is that how you qualified for this Pro Tour will have some influence on what you want to play. So if you recall correctly, this was the Pro Quest season. I believe this was before Worlds. If this was the Rosetta draft and Rosetta Classic Constructed season. So Zen was at the peak of his power at that time because Dio didn't have an armory deck, I believe. Or maybe Dio just got one, but
I think the armory deck came out partway through the ProQuest season.
Yes, you're right. You are correct. Like that, So there are going to be some people that qualified for the Pro Tour through Zen, and so they may want to play Zen. So we've also seen that the heroes that have been, like the MST heroes have been very, very strong, and it's been almost a year since they've come out. But they weren't like Starvo and they just catapulted to LL. So there's been enough time that people have like gotten a chance to like pick up the hero and really fall in love with it. And so I do think there will be a lot of people kind of just taking what they played in the ProQuest season or a hero that they've been playing for like the last 8 months. Case in point, you, Aaron. So
they've also changed the LL system though as well. Who's to say that if they hadn't changed that system that some of those wouldn't already be LL? Right. That's just something to keep in mind because they are extremely strong and very meta-defining heroes that have dictated a lot of,
Well, Zen would have definitely LL'd if they didn't ban like 5 cards from him, right? So
that's true.
For sure.
It's kind of like how Viscerai was about to LL during like Pro Tour 1, and then they like banned Scalata and he like crickets for like 2.5 years.
Went to hibernation.
Yeah. All right. Let's talk about another hero. We'll kind of use I guess we'll do a popcorn system here. Aaron, pick a hero.
Well, let's talk about. I don't know. We'll pick something kind of like middle of the road right now. Let's do Azalea.
All right. Well,
no, it's one of Will's favorite heroes.
Yeah, Will does like this hero. On it. However, Spoiler alert, I don't know if Will is going to be playing Azalea at Pro Tour London. Will, why don't you talk to me a little bit about Azalea? She hasn't really changed much, right? Nothing new, nothing like... It's been like almost a year. There hasn't been a Ranger set in a long time. Obviously, High Seas is going to bring a lot of Ranger cards, but, you know, Azalea is still same old Azalea. What happened? You are muted.
You're muted.
She's honestly still a very powerful deck. She, not a lot has happened to rain on her parade. There hasn't been a good Guardian that showed up and just like started dominating the meta to hold her back. Jarl showed up and we were scared of him, but not too difficult to fight, and he's not even really in the meta. Azalea, concerning whether or not I'm going to play her, I'll never tell. But there's a lot of things working against her right now. Like Aurora is on paper sounds like a good matchup, but then when you finally hit her with a red in the ledger, she can E-strike you for 10 with some instants and an E-strike for 7. And any turns you take off, she has the potential to just run away with the match. So it's just like, on paper, it sounds like she should be good into these aggro decks, but she has such a hard time. Combo that with the fact that everybody else is bringing in a bunch of defense reactions to deal with Aurora. Now it's a lot more likely that your dominated arrow isn't going to hit quite as hard because your opponent is more likely to have a D-react in their arsenal. So I think she's still very strong. I think she's still going to get wins. You're not making a horrible choice if you bring Azalea to London, but I don't think you're going to be just bashing all of your matches down. You're going to have some tricky hoops to jump through. Mm-hmm. So I would put her a little bit lower on both the power and the people who bring her, but I think she'll still show up.
In terms of meaningful disruption, I mean, Azalea has access to a lot of different types of disruption, but most aggro decks only care about red in the ledger and knock the death whistle into red in the ledger. Of a lot of heroes, you sleep dart them, they're like, okay. You give them a blood rot, they're like, okay. You give them an inertia token, they're like, I was gonna throw my whole hand anyways. Like,
hilariously, hamstring is an arrow that you get the most results out of, and it's just a frostbite.
Yep.
I think metas where frailty tokens are very powerful, Azalea does a bit better in, and they're not great right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, dual wield warrior left. So did ninjas.
No dual wield warrior, dash IO, spamming pistol with high octane.
Aurora's fine with swinging her little dinky sword for 1. It's still coming in,
or not at all.
Or not at all. Yeah, Cindra will just flick them at you. Like,
I will tell you though, if one of the warriors gets very, very popular, Azalea becomes a very, very good deck.
Oh, totally.
Because
there's a small chance that if the room is a certain leaning one direction, Azalea could be great.
Yeah.
I just
Melting
don't think it's going to lean that direction.
Is actually unfair.
Yeah.
So for those of you who don't know what Melting Point does, it gives a big buff to the arrow. On hit, you destroy something with 1 or less power. Not good.
Dagger destruction. It's all right. Assassins, ninjas, don't worry. You have dagger recursion.
Yeah, they have retrieve. I wonder what class they didn't print the retrieve mechanic for.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell.
Nah, we don't need to dilute our mechanics anyways. Okay. All right. So if I'm hearing you right, she's actually like here-ish?
Yeah, I think so. Like, she's still doing strong things. She's a strong
You get the
deck,
right gem pairings. You like roll a little hot. You should be good. But it's been a while since Azalea has like basically maybe MST, that like era was like the last time Azalea was like considered like A+, S- tier type of.
I'd agree with that, because I don't think you're making a mistake if you bring Azalea, but you're in for a fight. I'll put it that way.
Okay, so maybe 2%, 6.5, something like that. Okay, we'll put it there. All right, Will, your turn to pick a hero.
Ooh, let's knock out one that I think is probably a dud. Kassai.
Oh no.
Oh, that's Josh's favorite.
That's my favorite hero, according to Twitch chat. And, you know, all the purple Discord players. Okay, I guess I'll take this one. So Kassai is a relic of a bygone era where dual-wield warriors roamed the land like dinosaurs or something. And she hasn't gotten any tools recently. In fact, you could argue that Kabuto made her worse. Provoke is nice to have. Jagged Edge is nice. But this is something we actually didn't talk about with Enigma. But Enigma actually got probably the best equipment she could have ever asked for in Quick Dodge Flexors. Quick Dodge Flexors
she got quite an upgrade.
A amazing card. And, you know, just having access to that just hurts Kassai quite a bit. Kassai has always struggled against aggro decks because they're just a little too fast. Now, Dynamos is nice, blocking for 3 is nice, but in terms of like meaningful pressure, I mean, Kassai's not gonna cause Aurora to block. Like, if you send something at her, if it's meaningful, it's gonna get stopped with the fridge. If it's just like on hit gold or whatever, they're like, okay, sure, I'll just keep my hand and go. So I don't think that's great. You're not great into Enigma. You're not great. Like, the only top tier deck that I think you'd be happy to see is something like a New or a Dio. You're also acceptable into some of the Earth heroes. Because you have the ability to grind with them, and both of you are kind of like value-based decks. But you're not really thrilled to see anything like Verdance is going to give you a tough time. We always joked about Kano being rough, but I mean, Kano's not really in the meta. But like, there's just you're not thrilled to see any hero as Kassai, and you're not really doing anything broken. And the top 2 decks, you are at least a 40-60 underdog, if not worse. So realistically, I can't see more than like 2 people bringing Kassai to London, if I'm honest. So typically there's about 400 people that go to Pro Tours and like 450 that go to Worlds. Yeah. This is going to end up in like the 0.5%. So Is she the worst hero? No. She won a calling, so I can't put her like that low. But you could do better. You could be playing Dory, or you could be playing Fang. Like, Fang has better evasive damage. Dory blocks just as well and has some threat in terms of like speed. Yeah, there's really nothing you're preying on in the meta, and yeah.
Like, Centauri sellswords aren't really that relevant right now, right?
Correct. So that was very, very good against Guardians because you could make a board, and then what are they going to do? Slowly clear them with Anathos or send a choke slam into one of them? Like, they're not doing that, right? Kassai is definitely better in a slower meta where there's less illusionists. So, and this is something I'm going to say for all of the warriors. Jagged Edge is not as good as you think it is.
It's good.
It's good.
It's not that good.
But it's not as good as you think it is, especially against a skilled Enigma. They have 2 block on board that they can use whatever they want. They have make a ward anytime they want, basically. Their deck probably has 12 D-Reacts, maybe 15. So you're really not going to have a good time as a warrior against Illusionists in this meta.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Okay. I'm going to popcorn to... Let's talk about Slippy. This is like the new hotness. So we're recording this on Tuesday.
April 1st. April Fools.
April Fools. Also known as Nathan's Baseball Day. So that's why he's not here. Taylor, you are the person here that has probably played more Slippy than all of us combined. Tell me a little about that.
Yeah,
This hero recently won the ProQuest Plus in Milwaukee. Went undefeated like 9-0, maybe 10-0, I can't remember, but definitely had a good day. Tell me a little bit about the hero, like what the game plan is, and where you think this is in the meta.
So the hero is a mark-based assassin, similar to Mario, which we'll talk about later. The bigger things is he does not usually play a retrieve package like Mario, so he cannot flick as aggressively. So he has a lot of dead cards in his deck if the opponent is not marked, such as like Mark of the Black Widow and cards like that. The more interesting things about the list that we saw is that he was on Just a Nick and had some blues in the deck that we saw. We saw a Bonds and Prague, both of them. So that was kind of interesting. And Take Up the Mantle, which is also one of the cards that you need to be marked. Whenever I was playing Slippy, he was very good into the field. I think he was very good into Enigma. He was very good into some of the Rune Blades. The issues with Slippy were that he instantly folded into a very good Aurora. She could just outmath you, and she could outplay your mantles and stuff like that, especially if she was playing shelters into you. Another issue I also had was new, which is the thing that I would like to talk the most about, was that the idea of playing this deck into new is like absolutely horrid. So I assume on the run he played 0 to 1 assassins. I don't exactly know what his full suite was yet, but the deck was definitely performing into all of the Enigmas and decks that are not assassin, pretty much.
Can you talk a little bit about Slippy versus other assassins? So his hero ability gives go again to any, whether it's your or the opponent's stealth attacks. So,
yes, holy smokes. So yeah.
I've heard from some people that, okay, that's not that big of a deal because nobody plans around facing Slippy, but then in practice, it's actually way better than it looks. What do you think about that?
So when I played it at Calling Memphis, my only losses on the whole tournament were to Mario's. They would just reveal their hero, and all their attacks would just have go again, and their deck was literally built to just pretty much beat mine. Just senseless. Looking at a hero like New, she plays a lot of stealth cards that you don't even think about. Like, she could just throw like a double trouble blue at you with go again, and that's not a card that you usually even think about because it's usually just a blue or a block 3 in that matchup. But then you also have to respect like the bonds of attraction that she naturally has in her deck. She can also use Hiss a little bit more aggressively on like a second chain link of a stealth card instead of the first. So she can go 3 or 4 wide into you without really needing anything, which is what really hurts the matchup a lot. Is that if the new keeps 5 cards, she's actually going to use 5 cards into you, which if you're playing any other hero, that she prefers blocking. So in my experience, the Slippy is just like the worst deck if you're expecting new to be more than like 10% of the meta. Like, it was just horrendous. No matter what we teched for, we tried like 9 codex, we tried Snatch, everything. It was just a horrendous matchup.
So this is a hero that is basically starting the tournament with on average 1 loss.
Yes.
Assuming that all the other assassins that are problematic, add up to about 10, 11%. Okay, so that is definitely going to affect the position or the y-axis of Slippy. But in terms of percentages,
people are kind of down on assassin in general right now, though. Like,
that's true.
I think New will be popular enough, like I said before. Just fans of New, and she's solid enough, but she's not exceptional. Like, I wouldn't expect New to be like in that top 3 deck contention. And Mario, I mean, people just aren't playing the deck right now. Like, unless someone's figured something out, this could be very low repped, and it just hasn't really proven itself at all. And Uzuri, same thing. Uzuri hasn't been really relevant meta wise for a while. So if you're fine dodging new or think that your matchup is like reasonable enough that it's playable. Like Slippy might just actually be like one of the better assassins to bring, because into all the other decks you get this huge advantage of doing all the things that the other assassins do to you to other people. You know, that fork that you do when you play a stealth card, like you play the bonds with Go Again, and they have to decide, okay, do I overblock or do I not block? And depending on whether or not you have a Go Again follow-up or attack reactions, you just put them in these situations where they just get screwed over no matter what.
Yeah.
It's like really annoying to play against. It's very powerful.
I actually think that LSS knows something that we don't, because this is the only I think the only hero in the game that has a different, other than Florian and Verdance, that has a different young and adult hero text. The young hero, which was back in Outsiders, the Arakni with 19 health, only give your own stealth attacks Go Again. And then this one is worded 99% similarly, except the first stealth attack each turn gets Go Again. So I feel like they tested this hero and they're like, okay, this is kind of strong. We need a safety valve, a stop valve, just in case this hero gets out of control.
And it's funny that the answer was other assassins.
Yes, the other assassins will hunt down this assassin if it gets out of control. So cool. I do kind of like having Slippy in this top left quadrant.
Well, you know, to make up for that downside, Slippy gets the chaos card pool, you know.
Yeah.
Probably
pretty fleshed out card pool.
Actually one of the best cards.
So hard.
All 2 cards of it.
Imagine you put an inner chi into, you know, somebody's arsenal. Oh, so good.
I've been trying.
Pretty cool.
Dog, every time I pitch Schism, I just put that's all you got in their arsenal, and it tilts me every time.
Man.
All right, so
that's a lot of value.
Could we see 12 people, 3% playing this at Pro Tour?
Yeah, I could see like 12 people. I could see 0. He is slipped through the gym is a hero.
I think there's enough people who really like Arakni that seeing him win that Battle Hardened is enough to push them. But I think right where you got it's where it's going to stick.
I do think 2 weeks is barely enough time, because I don't think this deck is that simple, right? To pilot.
No.
Okay.
I don't even think like the build is solved necessarily. There's a lot of different approaches you can take to them.
Yeah. I jumped on Hatchet Dory like 2 weeks before LA, and that's not hard to learn. So I think it is pushing it. Like, you might look at this Slippy deck from Milwaukee and be like, oh my god. But I don't know if you can do it in 2 weeks. So, but
we'll see.
Hey, we'll see. All right, Taylor, pick a hero.
Katsu.
Oh my. Boy. Who?
Yeah, who? Oh man, that hurts my heart.
Okay, so here's the deal with Katsu. Zen LL's Monday, they unban bonds. Katsu will have one player in the field, and that's me.
That'd be nice, but I think Brian already came out and said that he doesn't think that that's the way to fix Katsu.
I don't care what Brian says. They unban bonds. I'll play them.
Fair enough. Okay, so
I think that they're just trying to keep him around forever so that other ninjas can play Kodachis.
Oh, that's a
little tin hat conspiracy there. I like that one.
Yeah, if we look at the WTR weapons, the only, I guess Amathos is kind of relevant, but like the really relevant one is the Kodachis.
Sure. Man, imagine Ira losing Kodachi. She'd have to run high. What's her sword called again?
Edge of Autumn.
Edge of Autumn.
Okay.
Woof.
And she could run all those 2-cost ninja blues.
Oh my gosh.
Wait, why aren't you talking about Romping Club?
I mean, Romping Club control hasn't been a thing since 2021.
Romping Club is a good weapon. It's funny that it's like not been relevant in so long, but the
claws are just so much.
If you read Romping Club, it's a good weapon.
It's a 2 for 4.
Sometimes 5.
Yeah, 2 for 4.
Good.
It's good. Yeah. Anyways,
having to
we're
read
talking about
Rocket
Katsu. So Taylor, you used to enjoy Katsu. You were a Katsu enjoyer.
I was.
Zen took all your tools away. It all started with Chain taking away your plunder run, and it all went downhill.
Well, I played exclusively Katsu for Pro Tour LA. So like, and I did pretty well that weekend. And people come up and be like, "Oh, what do you think about this leg tap line?" Or "What do you think about this?" And I was like, "I've only played Katsu with this 80 cards." So it's like, I'm not a Katsu guy. I'm a Bonds guy. And so, like, what they've done to my boy has made me like the saddest thing ever. Like, Katsu is like in the worst spot I can ever imagine. I remember I'm having to play like CYB in Katsu, where I'm going to Kadachi CYB pass just to get like above a 40% win rate on Talishar. The deck is the worst it's ever been.
CYB pass. Oh my God.
He's so overshadowed by Zen. It's not even funny. Like, just put him in the dumpster corner. It's fine.
Yeah, it's like.
Let me ask. Let me play devil advocate a little bit. Okay, so Katsu is a hero that does, kind of like Dory, demand that you understand what the hero could do. Like, if Surging Strike hits, you need to know that Whelming Gustwave and Descendant Gustwave are cards that exist. You need to, I guess at the Pro Tour, most people will kind of know that. But does Katsu gain any benefit from being gone for so long that people might forget that Whelming Gustwave is a card?
Like, yes, whenever they unban Bonds, yes.
Okay.
Like,
They're
a
like,
little
what
bit.
is this dishonor card?
The problem is the payoff isn't worth, or it doesn't make up for it, right? Like, yes, if someone misblocks against Katsu, that's how Katsu gains his edges, but each, just like the Whelming line, is just too mid, and there's not enough good like combo lines. Retrace the Past is a pretty good card, but it doesn't make up for what he's lost. You're just, Cindra and Zen are just better at what he's doing. And every deck right now is like either a better aggro deck that will just no block you and probably race you and kill you, or it's playing like 90 reacts and a bunch of armor, like you're against Florian and you're just never going to hit him.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I think this is our very first 0 players bring this to the Pro Tour deck.
Yeah.
Unless Zen LLs and the unbanned Bonds, yes.
Bringing Katsu is like
Okay,
showing
I'll
up
put
to
him on the
raised
line
with the
just for you.
shoelaces tied together.
Okay. Well, Taylor, I'll let you pick another hero.
Oh, that's the worst thing.
Ooh, the power.
I mean,
Let's
you
talk
did
about
most of the talking
Jarl.
for that one, so I'm gonna,
Let's talk about Jarl.
Jarl.
Okay, Jarl.
All right.
Jarl.
Well, we have one of the very, very best Guardian players in the whole world in this chat.
Yep, go ahead, Aaron.
So, if you pitch an ice card to your hero power, the Aurora has to like put a card from their hand on top of their deck. You just keep doing that
You
every
don't even know
turn
what you're
while you
saying.
pitch to Crown of Seeds, and you just fatigue them. It's really good.
Oh, this guy right here.
Oh,
Wrong Ice Guardian. Wrong.
The Ice Earth Guardian.
Shit. Oh, no.
That guy. Yeah.
All right. So Jarl recently came out. Ed, you've been playing him a lot. Tell us about your Jarl adventures.
Yeah, he's fun for sure.
Oh, God. That's what I say about Boltyn.
He's fun.
Guys.
Yeah. So he has a lot of good things going for him. Obviously, his massive card pool and his options, right? The Earth cards are actually pretty insanely broken, like Felling the Crown, Plow Under, any of these Decompose. These are just really strong cards. And then his hero ability, if you can get your opponent off of a piece of armor, is also very strong. Like, you blow up something of Aurora's, and you keep giving them frostbites, like, it's pretty hard for them to do a whole lot. Same thing with Channel Lake Frigid. You have a good toolkit of cards, but the main thing is, while you have some good matchups on like Aurora and can kind of outgrind people, you have some different builds where you can play CYP or just straight mid-range. I know Michael Hamilton brought like a Redwood Hammer version that was doing pretty good. There's a lot of ways to build them, but it doesn't change the fact that you're just going to lose to basically every illusionist because of the existence of MST in general. So obviously Enigma is like basically an auto loss, and then Prism is very, very difficult nowadays as well because the existence of new has completely tooled the way you have to build your blue base because you also just lose that. So, it's
you don't
just
have as many
an
poppers
illusionist.
as the other Guardians.
Exactly. Yeah. And you have less poppers than the other Guardians too in general. Like even Bravo not playing any 6-power blues or anything like that still has more poppers than Jarl because he gets things like Crippling Crush and all that. And Jarl is generally playing things like Felling and Plow Under, which are not inherently poppers and will not be poppers unless you are attacking with them, which at that point there is never a popper. Right. All in all, though, if you can dodge the Illusionist, it's really not that bad of a pick because of the different ways that you can build them. You can kind of bring a more versatile toolboxy style of list and, be favored or slightly unfavored into everything other than those Illusionists. So
This is
I think he's strong.
This is definitely one of the heroes that can be built any different way, which is
Right.
There's no like set Jarl list, which is actually one of the greatest strengths of the deck. Is you don't know what style they're going to be flipping over.
Right now, I think there's basically two sets that you can play them. It's mainly CYB or not to CYB, right? But yeah, your blue base is kind of locked in for that reason. For the most part, there's some people that play more, autumn touches and things like that, and the blue base, which then hurts your new build. But in general, it's those two. But either one of those have better kind of builds and like matchups dependencies, depending on which way you lean. Like the CYB fatigue, that one, I think it was the Brazil Battle Harden. That deck is actually very strong into Aurora and a lot of these other decks too. Like I know Josh wouldn't want to sit across from a Rampart Jarl for sure. Yeah, definitely. Definitely a difficulty.
Yes. Oldham was very, 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 very difficult to beat, and Jarl is quite similar in that he can be played very, very defensively. So, if I'm hearing you right, Ed, if you get, is there a way to configure the deck to just like smash aggro and give up Illusionist and just pray to the gem gods that you get 6 or 7 aggro decks? And
either one
as
of
a
those
viable tournament strategy.
Do that. Yeah, it's the way that you kind of build the deck is not really do you smash aggro, because both of those versions do pretty well into aggro. It's like what off meta decks that you might run into do you want to be okay against? Like, do you want to be better into wizards, or do you want to be better into like I don't know, brute or something random, right? That's kind of the vibe.
Sure. All right, where do you think we're going to place Jarl then?
I think he's decent, but just because he has a couple of auto losses and pretty bad matchups, he has to go underneath Azalea for sure. And the representation actually might be a little bit higher. I could see that. Not higher than Slippy though. So I'd put him probably just right on the line, but like on the 5 or something.
You think he's worse than Azalea?
Only because the Illusionist?
He has more auto losses, right? Like that's the thing that kind of hurts him. If it wasn't for that, and if it wasn't for new existing and forcing you to play bad blues, then he would be a lot better. But
how's he into the Earth Heroes?
He's pretty decent, but again, it's kind of how you tech, right? So like if you're playing CYB and whatnot on like a fatigue style list, you're worse. But if you're playing more mid-rangey, you're better because you get to play some more tech utility cards. But yeah, Verdance, I believe at this point to be slightly unfavored because of the way they're being built now with the more arcane. But Florian is definitely fair because you have ways to blow up his grasp and kind of outlast the
that's pretty good if you blow
there.
up his grasp, yeah.
Right. Yeah.
There's something that
this
I kind of want to touch on is this is the 9th tier 4 event that we have that we're going to be going to, and there are at least half of the players there are grizzled veterans that have been playing for quite a while. And I think there is enough of a percentage of pro players that do not like variance, and they do not like to play gem roulette.
Yep.
And I think Jarl is not quite strong enough for pro players, which, remember, we said that about 50 to 70% of people are going to take meta decks. I don't think that the reward of that risk is high enough for more than a couple percentage of the meta or of people to take him.
I mean, if you were like destroying everything else, then yeah, that's one thing, right? Like, I destroyed the best deck, Aurora. I'm really good against Zen. I beat Assassin. I beat all the other mid-range deck. I just have to dodge Enigma, and my deck's gas. But that's not even really the case, because you still have to play out those other matchups, and some of them you're not even like favored into, or they're even.
For sure.
Yeah.
So it's like the reward isn't worth the I definitely can't play this one matchup, or I'd for sure lose, and then all these other ones I have to struggle to beat anyways. So
it's a difficult deck to play like optimally, right? You have to play basically perfectly because your matchup spread isn't as drastic, right? You don't have a bunch of 70-30 matchups. It's usually like 55-45 that can be swayed one way depending on your place and like your reads and whatnot. So I think a very strong player could do well, but in general, I don't think it's an amazing pick personally.
I think the last time where we had people attempt to take this gamble is Pro Tour 2. There were several Oldham players that gambled that they weren't going to run into Prism, and back then that was like a 95-5 matchup. So
I was one of those.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think there's and
I played against an Oldham and an
Oldham
Icelander.
Back then it was like, okay, you're pretty decent into Briar, so that's the whole reason to bring Oldham. But now it's like, okay, you're all like you guys have said, like I don't think the payoff's quite there. So, all right, I think we'll just leave him there for now. All right, Ed, pick a hero.
Well, I don't want to pick another one that I'm going to be mainly talking to, but I kind of want to just knock out my favorite hero, Bravo. So let's talk about Bravo just for a little bit.
Might be relatively quick.
Just because he's similar to Oldham in some ways, right? So the Oldham build with CYB, it's a very similar style deck, except the difference is you get to play Crippling Crush, Starstruck, Showtime, and Pulverize if you want to type thing. But most of the builds are going to be playing Rampart only now with CYB, a bunch of defense reactions. And this deck is actually very good into the Auroras and things like that. The main auto loss is just Enigma. And honestly, the new matchup isn't even that bad either. And because you have all these big attacks, you get to remembrance them back. And then most of the time, you will beat them with just big, dumb attacks. And that's super fun to me. But yeah, in general, I don't think he'll be played very much at all. I think there will be a couple of people to bring him, like Kel McCreath, if he decides to show up. For sure, going to bring him.
Is it safe to say if you sit across a Bravo that they're probably going to try to cheese you with CYB?
I don't think there is a single
viable build other than that.
Viable build that isn't CYB at this point. If somebody brings traditional Bravo and you board wrong for the traditional Bravo and they got you, like, I mean, they kind of deserve it, right? But they're going to lose against like most everything else. So it's going to be CYB. You sit across Bravo, it's going to be a CYB deck, but it's one of the better ones to do that style, right?
Okay.
So, yeah, it's always going to be, Tunic build and all that kind of stuff. So, I'd put him over at the. Yeah, it's definitely cool.
Better than I thought it was going to be. I thought we were just going to put him down at the bottom, but it sounds like it's like reasonable.
I think he's probably better than Kassai, like somewhere in between Jarl and Kassai, but I think he's like slammed to the
nobody's showing up with
him.
him, but yeah.
Yeah, like 2 people, right? So
Two people.
Like
Two
Jason
people is where
and
Kassai
somebody
is.
else.
Yeah, so not too far off. I put him pretty close to Jarl. Raise him up to like the 4.5.
Okay.
Yeah, something like that. That's perfect.
Stick in the elevator.
Okay. So, a little bit of the elevator. Let's go with. Let's see. I want Will to talk a little bit. So tell me about some Prism, Will.
All right. I can do that. I think Prism is a pretty reasonable choice. There's some matchups you don't want to see, but like Aurora is going to have a hard time with you slamming down your 7-power angels. Same thing with Zen. He'll have D-reacts and stuff like that, but I just think a lot of these aggro decks are going to have a hard time dealing with all of Prism's big heralds. That being said, I think Aurora's not exactly, or not Aurora, Enigma is not exactly a great matchup for you to see. There's some other matchups that you maybe don't want to run into, like, actually, I was going to say Cindra, but Cindra's probably another one where you're having a good time. But I think Prism's going to be good. I don't think there's going to be a ton of her just because the Enigma matchup is so polarizing, and you can't just lose to Aurora as well. I say the matchup is good, but she could just go ooga booga and run you over, especially if you draw a hand of Figments. And that's the biggest problem with her, is that sometimes you can draw a hand that almost loses you the game, and a hero that's already a little fragile. So I think a little bit higher on the strength numbers, but still pretty low on the meta share, I would imagine.
Prism is a hero that people spend a ton of money on, and I feel like there's like 10 people that are just always going to show up with Prism because they have cold foiled Genesis and, and all the bling. And this is a hero that does reward like knowing your matchups, and this is a hero that does prey on a lot of decks. Like Aurora, I don't even think Aurora has a popper in her deck at the moment in the current builds.
Maybe not.
And Cindra also, unless she's running. Yeah, Cindra's not even running Command and Conquer. So, like, you could bully those 2 decks for sure. We did see Prism kind of fall off as Cindra fell off, though. So, there might be a little bit less food for her to prey on. But Prism has always been one of those heroes. Like, ever since they printed Luminars 2, Electric Boogaloo, like, this hero has had a floor in terms of like people playing her. So I actually think she's probably going to be like 3%, maybe 4%. This is actually like one of the hardest things for me to think of in terms of sideboard. I'm like, this hero, let's say I'm playing traditional Dawnblade Dory. The difference between 0 poppers and 3 is massive.
Mm-hmm.
Like 25% win rate swing type of massive.
Yeah.
But if this hero is 3% of the meta, do I just say screw it? Right? Like if it's 5%, 6%, okay, now we might be talking. But like, I think it's probably about 3 to 4%.
I think she might be a little bit more than that. I think Prism is a bit better than that might be letting on. I think her Aurora matchup before was pretty close. It's a little rougher now if you pair into like a face purgatory Aurora, because that element is very annoying for Prism. And like you said, the Cindra's being less popular took away another one of your popular good matchups, but she's like another deck that's kind of solid into a lot of things. Like you're good into Assassin, you're good into Ninja, you can beat Runeblade. I mean, just looking at the hero list, I mean, you're not really that scared to see much. And she's a lot more swingy than like Enigma is. Enigma is a very consistent deck. Prisma has very, very high highs and quite a bit worse lows. But I know there's a lot of Prism fans out there.
I think Prism is a pretty spooky deck from the Aurora side, and is not a deck I would like to see. I expect a little bit more than we're letting on, though. Yeah, I would say like 5%.
Yeah, you know what? You're right. Because I was thinking about the matchups I didn't want to see, but the more I think about it, there's not a ton of them that are that popular. She
Brute and
might
Guardian
be
are
a kind of
gone.
a cool little.
So,
She might be a cool little counter pick. Might be
Yeah.
interesting to see.
Yeah, every good guardian is not the only okay guardian
Is Victor.
that could give her a hard time is Victor, which I'm sure we'll talk about soon.
Yeah.
But yeah, that and then Vynnset has a good amount of poppers too.
Yeah, Vynnset. That's true.
Yeah, this is the hero that people will bring if they like. They're trying to be smart.
Yeah.
You're gonna say something, Aaron?
I think she's probably a little bit better than Slippy.
Yeah.
I would probably move her vertically a little bit.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think I
Since
like
agree with
that.
Sure. All right, Will. Pick a hero.
Well, there's been one guy calling out my name this whole time. I don't know if we're going to have the most not delicate, but in-depth discussion about him. But let's talk about Kano.
Ooh. All right, so Kano.
I feel like Kano is back in that slot where people are kind of disrespecting him, and he might be able to creep into this Pro Tour. I could be wrong, but I think that's possible.
I think people's idea of herd immunity of Aurora with shock charmers is going to make Kano a actually good pick for this Pro Tour. Because what you do is you go, hey, no one's going to actually register Kano, so why do I need to bring my shock charmers?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, they'd be crazy. Round 1, you reveal AB2, they blow your face off. It's like, okay, well, never mind. That was a mistake.
Yeah, Shelter from the Storm does help a tiny bit.
It's a smidge. It doesn't help a ton.
But you gotta draw it in your hand.
Yeah.
And then you have to put meaningful offense into them. And then they have to go off and you still have to have it in your hand. It's not amazing. Yeah, we're in that Kano cycle of people are disrespecting him, so maybe he'll come back. His power got reduced quite heavily by the book. Like, he can't stack because he doesn't have
You're
books.
absolutely right. The book burning hurt him, but a local of mine who's I'd wager to say probably in the top 10 Kano players in the world. He showed me the power of what's the name of that card again that draws 2 cards?
Open the floodgates.
He showed me the power of open the floodgates. They have a lot of amp now, like pretty easy to pull off amp. So if you don't show up with like AB3, they'll get you with open the floodgates these days.
Yeah,
it's pretty easy for them to pull it off.
Like
Oasis
the more
Respite as well is not played very much.
Yeah, Oasis Respite. Yeah.
So like the more current builds of Kano playing like Eternal Inferno, Cindering Foresight, either like red Aether Quickening, stuff like that, the more tempo based ones I think is actually really good right now.
Oh, no, that one Kano that was at the team battle hardened was just blowing everyone's face off. He killed Naib on like the first turn after passing.
If you have AB1 and no Oasis Respite, you can only Unga Bunga into him and pray.
Yeah.
That's
or pray that he draws real bad. Yeah.
And pray you draw your Shelter when they go off. Because what else are you going to do? Arsenal Shelter? Like, what are we even doing at that point, right? Like, do you even run Shelter against him? You might be like, well, I guess I can't run these other DREX. So, I think very similar to Prism. This is the hero that people bring to go, I got you.
You were ready.
Yeah, you are ready for
time.
me. Yeah. All right.
So I think low representation, but I actually think his strength is a little high right now. I think he might be kind of spooky.
I'd always put him at an 8.
Yeah, I think he's like 7 to 8. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think he's gonna be like 1% or less. Like,
I think he's gonna be closer to 2%, man.
So 2% is about 8 people in 4.
I know 7 people bringing him already.
There you go, 2%.
Okay.
Maybe
I know
3.
47 people bringing Kano. Everyone, pack your AB.
I have been training Kano for the last year in Hong Kong, so I'm bringing Kano.
Okay, cool.
All right. Okay, I think we can put him there. Okay. Will, you picked Kano, right? So
I did. I can pick another one if you like.
Yeah.
We talk about Well, you know what? It's another quick one, but I'd like to go ahead and knock him out. Let's talk about Olympia.
Who?
Who?
What is that?
So the only person that might be playing Olympia at Pro Tour is my cat, or me when I'm giving away scarf for scarves. You know, Olympia's just not a complete hero.
Yeah.
And being an incomplete hero in one of the 2 or 3 worst classes at the moment is not a recipe for success. This guy is a ton of fun, very, very flavorful. But I mean, if you look at the other warriors, every single one of them, when they leave, are going to take a weapon with them, except Olympia. Doran's going to take her Dawnblade, Boltyn's going to take his Raiden, Kassai's going to take Centauri Saber, Fang's going to take Obsidian Firevein. Olympia doesn't have a signature weapon. So when he LLs in 2032, he will just be taking his Fern with him, probably. Unless they give him an expansion slot card or print Olympia versus Betsy.
You know, that's an interesting thing to think about. Brian Gottlieb was saying in a recent interview that one of the shortcomings with Warrior is that he thinks that the Warrior signature weapons have not been up to snuff. The only Warrior that has a weapon that lives up to Warrior has been Dawnblade so far, Dori. And he wants to try and improve upon that in the future. It'd be interesting to see a weapon that was built kind of around Olympia to make him more interesting, to make him more unique and viable. That'd be cool.
A weapon that wagers.
Yeah, something like that would be very useful. There
something has to do with gold.
A little bit of hope in the next set, like maybe some of the generics.
Okay, yes.
Maybe you can equip a helmet that makes you a pirate, and then some of the pirate payoffs are good. I don't know.
Wait, just gold is the payoff.
Galea, and then he becomes the pirate. Oh, that'd be so cool. Or maybe you could start with the pirate hat, which means you can legally have pirate cards in your deck. And then you re-equip the Galea. And then, I don't know, maybe you draw pirate cards and you instantly lose the game or something. I don't know.
In any case, for Pro Tour London...
In any case, there will be 0 people playing Olympia.
Yeah.
And he's
probably lower than Katsu.
He's lower than Katsu. Wow. He's going to occupy the corner. We used to call this Arakni and Friends. We're going to call this Olympia and Friends in the corner.
And is it literally just Flick Flack and Kadachis that are giving them the edge above Olympia? Maybe not even Flick Flack.
It's probably a lot of things. Ninja cards.
I mean, ninjas are just better than warriors at the moment. That's
there you go,
yeah. I will say, though, you can build Olympia as a very, very, very degenerate fatigue deck.
That's true.
It's very expensive, though.
It is very expensive now. So it's about $1,900 to do so. Probably more now that Shelter's up. So it's probably $2,000.
Oh, yeah, jeez.
So, but the fun thing is that if you are a competitive player in Flesh and Blood, you probably own 85% of the cards. So if you want to be degenerate at your armory and make people hate you, you can play Olympia. You can play Wallet Warrior.
Wallet Warrior.
Wallet Warrior. All right.
That's my favorite Hearthstone deck.
Yeah. All right, let's talk a little bit about. I'm getting nostalgic for heavy hitters meta, so I want to talk about Kayo.
Okay.
Kayo, 1 year ago, absolutely terrorizing the metagame. He was the most represented deck at PTLA, and then MST came along. And suddenly, his numbers weren't good enough. Mm-hmm. I mean, this deck is very reminiscent of Azalea. Like, does a thing that's good. It's pretty powerful. It's pretty consistent. It has one of the best fridges in the game. I think literally has the highest armor other than a Guardian that's, like, holding a shield. Mm-hmm. So, what happened, guys? What happened to Kayo?
Kayo has a really rough time into Aurora.
Yeah.
Kayo's kind of a mid-rangey aggro deck where because he generates a lot of value with his might tokens and his armor, he's kind of able to pivot between blocking and throwing one very large attack and going wide with like your Blood Rush Bellows and your wild rides and stuff, depending on what you're playing against and the situation that comes up. So he still does his thing. Sash his equipment's busted. Scabs just bails you out of games that you have no business winning. Sash is one of the strongest equipment in the game. Flesh Bag is just a crazy headpiece that can just gain tons of value. Apex is just 3-block arms that make you 2 might tokens throughout the game. Everything he does is just actually really, really good. His main problem that he's having that the other decks don't have this issue is that he can't slot in all of those D-reacts that everyone else is playing. So if you bring a deck like Florian or Ira or Fang, you're able to play all of these generic D-reacts and ways to combat what Aurora's doing. Kayo can't really do that because he needs the density of 6 powers to make his cards function. So he can't just slam Sink Below and Shelter from the Storm in the deck. He doesn't really do well pitching for Arcane Barrier against Aurora because most of the time, if you're doing it just to stop an on-hit, you're not getting the full value out of your card. You also would have to give up one of your equipment pieces to even play the Null Rune in the first place. That matchup is just very, very bad. And I actually think he's really solid into a lot of other decks in the game. It's just the best deck is an aggro deck that you don't have a good time into, which is kind of why he fell off in the first place when Misfell came out, because he just wasn't keeping up with Zen, and Brute really shines in like the slower, grindier mid-range metas. Kayo kind of broke that mold just because he was so inherently powerful, but he just isn't keeping up with these aggro decks right now. Just with the way the games play out.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I kind of get the vibe that there are no KO mains in the world. Like I've heard of like Levia mains, Teklo mains, Rhinar mains.
Yeah, it's really weird.
He's not a hero that people are like, I love KO. It's like
Andrea,
but it's not
KO, man.
Yeah.
He has a very like generalist appeal. Like he's the least broody brute, which means that more people will probably like him because he has the less polarizing game attributes that like Rhinar does.
Yeah, if you like Brute, you like the randomness of Brute, you're probably playing Rhinar. If you want like the raw explosive power, you're probably playing Levia.
I don't see Eugene running around playing KO.
No. He plays the KO Armed and Dangerous. Not Armed and Dangerous. Berserker run.
The run, yeah. But that's real brute gaming.
That's real brute gaming. You're rolling a dice to see if you double your power. Oh my god. All right, so I'm kind of getting vibes like Jarl, like strong, but like not going to be popular. Something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there were like murmurings in the RTN season of like, oh, maybe he's actually better than people are giving him credit for. People forgot about him, but in practice, I think people figured out like, oh, actually, yeah, the Aurora matchup's just bad enough that he's not good. There'll probably be some people that bring him, but I think it'll be only a couple, and I don't think he'll do that well.
It's like 7 or 8 people. Sure, we'll go like that.
Yeah.
Turns out they did forget about Dre.
Yeah, they did. All right.
Howdy.
What hero do we want to talk about next?
We need to find a green hero. Who sucks that everyone says is good.
Okay, yeah, we don't have anything in the green area. Okay,
There's like a couple that I think are worse than what people claim they are, but they're not all heroes that I think will have a high representation. I think if I'm really trying to find something that would actually be in green, where a lot of people are going to play it,
and they should,
but it's not going to do that well.
Good.
I gotta say, I think it's new.
That's funny. That's what my eyes were being drawn to.
Green.
Because I think
I have
maybe
heard
Ira a smidge.
a lot of people that are new mains saying, "I don't know what's going on. They're just not winning as much as I used to."
She just doesn't beat much right now.
She went
she
on
has
a
to
journey
fight.
of like trying to get different decks to work, and then they all went back to the original deck. And then turns out that's not. Yeah. Sorry, I cut you off.
No, you're fine. It's like a disruptive assassin. You would think that their place in the meta is beat up on aggro. The problem is that your Aurora matchup isn't that great because Aurora can pretty effectively scale down her hands and play through your disruption. And if you give her space, she's just going to pump out a ton of damage. It's not like crazy unfavored, but it's not pleasant enough from the new side where I think that would be a main benefit to bringing new. And then like everything else, like Florian, you have to play these really long drawn out games that go to, super late game. You can get there, but it's, not a comfortable matchup. Zen, again, very resilient aggro deck, has Cosmic Awakening for the end games. You have to fight to beat those. Illusionist, you're not really great into. Prism, you have some poppers, but not a ton. You can't deal with Spectra if she plays it out very much. The Herald aggro is fairly effective against you because if you block, you're just not presenting anything. And if you're not presenting anything against Prism, she's going to run you over. Enigma's a pretty tough matchup. Like, things have to line up a very specific way for you to kind of get enough damage through to the Enigma to actually like clear and pressure her life total. And all of the things that you would like to see, they're just worse heroes. I don't know. I think New can beat most things, and I think that because of that, people who like her will play her. So she's the most green, like, overrated hero I can think of because I think that she is popular, but I don't think she's going to convert very well for how many people are going to bring her, right?
I think a lot of people are going to play her because they put $1,700 into the deck. They got Marvel Chi, they got Marvel Codexes, and they got, the Marvel hero, and they're just like, I've been playing New for 10 months, and we're just going to keep playing her. Like,
people like Assassin.
Yeah,
she was so popular in like Osaka. Like the calling top tables in Osaka was just filled with news. Yeah. Now, obviously, she was a bit probably better positioned at that time. I think so. Yeah, I'd say yeah. She was good. But now it's like, I just don't see what you're targeting.
I wouldn't put her in green personally. I think she's better than Jarl. Like, let's be real.
So we have to move her up.
Yeah.
No.
Maybe lower Jarl some. Put her half and half. Make her half and half. Make Jarl.
I think she's probably at least a 6. She's better than Kayo too, right? Like.
I mean, all those like dark horse heroes probably.
What we do is we just change this to green. We've changed all these scores to green.
Yeah.
I hate to be the guy that.
No, you're right. Green, it's just I think we're in a position right now where dark horse decks aren't really being represented like that. That's too bad. I like it.
It's like these dark horse. I think like the dark horse decks are dark horse in the sense that you do well enough where you don't feel like you wasted your time. I don't know if it's dark horse in the sense that I found the secret pick that is actually just going to run the tournament. Where I don't think it's like embarrassing to play Slippy or Azalea or Kayo at Pro Tour, but I also don't think that you're putting yourself in a great position. And I feel like if we're doing a scale, if your hero is like 7, 6.5, 7.5 out of 10, like those should be like, oh, I'm comfortable playing this. I feel good about it. I don't know if I would say that KO, Jarl, and Kano and Azalea are all like in that, oh, I feel really good about this. I feel like that makes more sense for something like New or Florian or
yeah.
Okay.
I was trying to find something green. I said earlier there's always a green. I can't be proven a liar.
Last time the green was Florian.
That was another one of the heroes I was looking at. But
yeah, I'm thinking like
I think Florian is pretty decent, but
Florian. A lot of people are saying that Florian is good.
Is he going to have a high meta share though?
It'll be higher.
5%.
All right, let's
10%.
just start talking about him.
Like breaking 10% is tough, in this meta, because like
Right.
Zen,
There's
Enigma,
36 heroes.
Aurora is going to be a lot, and there's a lot of heroes. Yeah.
Okay, so Florian, the quintessential mid-range deck, also has access to a slower, more grindy, OTK-ish package if he wants to. A hero that's running a ton of D-reacts, which should, on paper, do pretty well against Aurora. We saw in Kobe, Florian take down several Auroras there. Interestingly enough, not running AB, just relying on well-grounded and just being resilient and being able to block everything. Yeah, it's interesting.
Florian is Guardian 2.0.
Yeah, this is the new Guardian.
All the people who like the idea of playing Guardian or wish they could play Guardian, they just want to play Earth Heroes because they think that they're more viable. The sad truth, though, is that Florian has only a marginal better time into like Enigma than the Guardians do. I think that matchup is really bad, unless you build a specific Florian deck that is optimal to play against Enigma. Even then, you're not really that great into it, but you can win. But no one's playing those decks right now because you give up like all of your points into the roars and stuff, which is why you're even bringing Florian in the first place. So I think that a lot of people are jumping on like the Earth bandwagon because they really like it. They like that they can beat up on some of the top aggro decks and beat a lot of other decks, kind of like what a good Guardian like would do historically. But I think that they're going to realize that once they parent all the Enigmas at this tournament, that they're going to have a really, really bad time. So I think Florian is probably going to hit a massive brick wall. Yeah,
that's the feeling I've been getting as well. I just hear so much hype around this hero, but and when I play against Florian, sometimes I'm just kind of confused. Like, all these numbers are pretty good, and you're really hard to kill. But it might just be because Warrior just sucks against Florian. But like,
No.
I mean, if your position, Florian's doing something strong, but if your position's not the greatest, I mean, you're good. Our conclusion is that you're good-ish against Aurora, and you're bad against Enigma. What other top deck does Florian like want to see?
He has an okay time. Well, you said top deck, but I was going to say he has an okay time into Azalea. Like, he's good at fatiguing her. Now, if the Azalea player knows what they're doing, they can just dominate the game out and make it so he can't block as efficiently, but he's good into that one at least.
I mean, New would have been another big one where like New is the big stalwart, like slow disruptive deck, for the past several months or whatever. Or I guess since probably she came out, to be honest. But Florian having a pretty good matchup into New, being able to take it late and outvalue with the Earth Recursion and the Grasp of the Arknight hero ability. I think people are really hyping him up because of that. Because you beat what was before in your place while also beating the aggro deck. So it's like, oh, this is the next big thing. This is, like I said, the new Guardian. But you don't solve that problem of, like, Florian's just worse into Enigma than New is.
Yeah. Like you said, though, I think he was really good at beating New, but New might be a little less in popularity, so he might have less things to prey upon. Maybe Florian is the overrated deck that we were looking for all along.
His main issue is Enigma, right? Like, he has a lot of good tools. Like, he can beat pretty much anything other than that with some, he just has a good toolbox, right? That's the thing about Earth Heroes, it seems, is that they have a strong toolbox. He also has reach, right, with the tree. I know a lot of builds starting to play the tree and whatnot. And then you could have a sideboard OTK package. There's a lot of ways that you can bring in. Just being able to play all those D-reacts is really strong. My suggestion is move Jarl down into the ice blue where he belongs, and then put Florian above the line but maybe in like 7 or 8%. Let's say 7% just to give us some room. But like right on the line as well.
Okay.
And then move Bravo down too.
Move Bravo down. He's taking the elevator down. Oh no.
Yeah, like right there is perfect. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, Florian's. I don't know.
I just feel like it's the kind of deck where when you know what your game plan needs to be, it gets a lot better for you. I think a lot of people in Kobe maybe didn't have the Florian game plan down pat. Maybe not, but that would be my guess.
Well, it's hard to tell, right? Because of the way that they can be built. So
That's
if they
true.
like bring in Scepter against you, and you're not.
That's true. That's true.
Bodied, right?
Like on paper, isn't like if you're trying to adapt the same strategy as Jarl, you just dodge Enigma. Like you could build your Florian deck in a very degenerate way, right? Like you could build it ultra defensive, OTK with maybe a couple of go wide strategies, like a couple of go wide.
Technically, you could even build it go wide channel mount heroic thanks to that new head jab we got outed.
Yeah,
you could do
or go again.
Or go again.
A lot. I think you sacrifice a lot of other.
No, if you make it the channel mount heroic package with go again attacks, that you destroy the entire deck. So it's probably not worth it.
Yeah, it's like you have you have a respectable matchup into Enigma. It's still not good, but
it's still not good. Yeah, but it's reasonable.
It's technically winnable. But then you have to like cut all these D-reacts, which is the whole point of playing anyway, is just have like a high efficiency, 4-block. And then once you eventually, mid to late game are turned on, then you outgrind, right? That's kind of the idea.
He got a lot of points when Viscera LL'd.
That too.
Which is why he kind of resurged in popularity.
I have a very, very hard time evaluating Florian because this is one of the banes of my existence as a warrior. So,
you just assume he's
and I could beat
he's got to be good.
And I could beat Florian once in a while. That makes me hesitant to put him that high. It's like this is supposed to be really, really, really bad for me, and I still could occasionally win. So it's like I don't know.
Well, we'll play 10 games and see how many you win.
Oh no, let's not. All right. Ed, why don't you pick something? You're also a little bit quiet, Ed. Maybe sit a little bit closer.
Am I better?
Yeah, you're
maybe just yell.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I did turn. I'm sorry, my gain turned down a little bit.
Yep.
Yeah. So Florian, let's see.
I should have made these Jeopardy categories.
Yeah, that
I'll
would
take
be a good
the
idea.
green guy for 200, and then I just flip him.
Let's do
so many
Zen.
great guys.
Zen? That's a good call.
All right. So
if he's still viable,
if he's still around. All right. So Zen is, like I said before, this is a hero that may LL in the next week, but this hero has been around for quite a while and has been one of the poster childs for a broken metagame. Currently built as a extremely mid-range deck that is good numbers, but has higher spikes than certain other decks. Unfatigable because of Cosmic and goes wide. So can, clear boards. Just has the damage output to compete with Aurora. Has the ability to clear. Is fairly consistent. There's a little bit of variance in terms of if you don't transcend quickly enough, then things get a little bit hard. But this is a hero that, assuming that this hero is legal, I think this hero will be fairly represented. This is a hero that, if you've been playing Zen for a while, I don't think you need to practice him that much, because I don't think a lot has changed in the last 2-3 months for Zen. So if you have the reps for Zen and he's legal, you'll probably play him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
He's a very strong hero.
I think Zen is going to be the same but opposite as New, where he's going to be played a similar amount, but I think he's actually going to do really well. Actually, I actually think he might have a chance to be played very heavily. I think that I said before about a lot of people kind of being hesitant to just jump on the Aurora bandwagon because there are some situations in which he's kind of obnoxious to play. And I feel like Zen doesn't really have that issue. Zen has a little bit more agency in the way he plays just because he's a little bit more mid-rangey and blocky. So people who don't want to be as aggressive and play Aurora, I think that a lot of them will probably navigate towards Zen. And I think he's like probably one of the overall best, like generalist good deck pick right now.
Yeah, this is the Kayo of this year.
Yeah.
So are we thinking somewhere near Enigma?
I think
less than Enigma.
He's worse. He's lower than Enigma and Aurora, but I think that he will be played in similar numbers.
I like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you mean weaker than? So this is if this is S, this is A plus.
Yes, I think he's weaker than them, but I actually do think he'll be played more than Enigma will be. Okay. But I seem to think that Enigma will be less rep than you guys do, but
well, when you were talking about her earlier, it convinced me a little bit. I think I agree with you. She's not going to be as represented as I originally thought. We'll see though.
Okay, well, let's quickly talk about if Zen does LL. Where do the Zen refugees go? Is it just right here?
Probably Aurora. I would imagine Aurora.
So Aurora could reach like 25% if Zen LLs.
Well,
does anything's meta share get better if Zen goes away?
Zen is one of those decks that's just consistent. It's not really thrilled to see anything. Doesn't hate.
I don't think it's necessarily holding anything.
I don't think he's gatekeeping anything specific.
Yeah.
No. Yeah.
If the Enigma player is not scared of Zen, then they really shouldn't be in here. That's like, oh my god, it's Zen. I guess I lose. Like, no.
Yeah.
It's very similar to Kayo. Kayo wasn't like destroying anything in the. I guess
if Zen leaves, maybe a couple people might tweak their lists a little bit or something, but I don't think anyone's going to swap their hero because Zen left.
Probably not. Yeah.
Unless obviously, except for the Zen people.
Yeah, I could see the Zen players going to Aurora or to honestly like Kayo. If you want to play very mid-range, Ira, Cindra, something like that.
It is such an extreme short notice that I don't even know how much it would impact where like what people even have available to them, right? Mm-hmm. You know, I mean, I'm sure a lot of Pro Tour players probably have the ability to have multiple decks. Like, is every Zen player like physically actually bringing a second deck with them to London? You know, and like if they're doing that, what is the most likely bet? You know, Aurora is probably the default because it's probably maybe the simplest one to jump on.
It's also relatively cheap to build Aurora as a backup deck. You don't need to like. I don't think Zen players are going to go over to Neo. That's an expensive deck if you don't have it, right? So, okay. Let's pick another hero. What do you want to talk about next?
Do a mechanologist. Have we done one of those yet?
Yeah.
I want to talk about Dio, one of my sleepers.
Yeah. All right, so Dio, people said, oh, Cerebellum is really, really good, but then they took away High Octane, so this hero's bad. This hero is not bad. This hero recently got Null Time Zone, and this hero can still output a ton of damage. This hero can, like, fatigue is not really a huge issue when you're racing decks like Zen and Aurora. Traditionally, Boost Dash is one of the best decks into aggro because their cards block 3, and they just have Go Again. They have Teklo Foundry Heart, which converts... can get you that extra resources, and you're not afraid of burning yourself out because the game doesn't go to fatigue. And yeah, Dio, a little bit more straightforward to pilot these days, And yeah, Taylor, you said you thought this was a sleeper pick?
Yeah, I actually think this is a really good pick, just for the fact that I think it has a good matchup into Aurora. That matchup is very similar to the Aurora Mirror, where it's like there's like 1 or 2 decisions in the game, but it's really just a high roll simulator. And under that fact, that it just makes it a good pick. It doesn't mind going first or second into Aurora, which I think is a big deal. Of course, it prefers first, but I think it can punish both sides of the coin. I think it has a pretty good matchup into Prism, it has natural poppers of 6 and can still race. I don't know what the Enigma matchup is. What's your Dio Enigma matchup, Aaron?
I mean, the plan is to fatigue them. That's kind of like your ward thing doesn't work against her. She just pushes it over, and Enigma can do it. It's not bad. It's not that bad for Enigma, but it's not bad for Dio either. It's kind of pretty close, and it really kind of depends on how well the setup turns line up with what Enigma can do to punish. I think that Enigma can fatigue Dio a decent amount of the time, but I think she's definitely worse at it than some other decks. Like if you're playing a Jarl or a Warrior, you have a much better time trying to fatigue Dio, and that's where Dio kind of struggles into, Florian, stuff like that. But then those decks are, like we've already talked about, not great overall in the meta. So if Dio's like most fatiguey deck that's meta relevant that she has to worry about is like Assassin and she's in a pretty good spot. Because she can get over those a good amount of the time, and then she just has to worry about, boosting over all of the aggro decks.
Yep.
Yeah. So she's like a deck that you bring to try to break the wheel at this Pro Tour. I think you're like, oh, I have these strict setups. I think I can beat Aurora. I think I can beat Zen. I think I have an okay shot at Enigma. I think Dio would be a fine pick, and probably in my top 5 or 6 decks I would bring.
One of my locals plays Dio, and we were at a Road to Nationals. It was a draft one, unfortunately, and he didn't do too well. But he started playing all the top 8ers as they lost with his Dio deck, and he was beating all of them. So I tend to agree with you. She might be a good sleeper pick. It's a pretty unique and good deck right now, as long as you don't run into decks that are good at fatigue.
Also, Null Time Zone, naming like Sink Below and Favor Scene is so cash.
That card's really good in a lot of scenarios.
Yep.
I love Chains of Imminence.
2 turns.
That's blue. Can play off the top of your deck. Make a action point. So good.
Yep.
Yes.
Dio's not easy to play.
No.
That is also a consideration.
There were quite a few Dio players in Osaka, so they might be continuing that momentum a little bit.
A lot of Dios didn't do that well in Osaka.
I think the deck is just insanely hard to pilot.
It is.
Like you watch like Sam Sutherland pilot, and it just like your mind just starts melting.
All right, so maybe 3% and 8.
Strong, low representation. Yeah.
Yeah, I think she's the best dark horse so far.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Speaking of dark horses, a shadow hero, Vynnset. This has been heralded as one of the best decks against Aurora, and has a decent matchup into most of the metagame. You have the unpreventable damage to clear the board. You have some disruption to deal with, to kind of go toe-to-toe with some of the mid-rangey decks. This deck, though, is pretty difficult to pilot. It does have a lot of cute lines with Cull. This is a hero that has seen, kind of like Florian, seen a good amount of hype. But does this convert against strong opponents? I don't know. I feel like the current builds of Vynnset are built to be very consistent, but the consistency means you're paying a price in terms of power spikes. So I feel like this does have some issue closing games against decks that don't want to engage with your block 2 cards, send 2 cards type of strategy. Yeah. What do we think about Vynnset?
I don't think she's nearly as good as people to say she is.
Yeah, it's funny. I was thinking that she was going to be quite the contender when Cole came out, and she did get better, and she's strong, but I think she's a bit overhyped, to be honest.
So this is a hero that you play to make yourself feel smart.
There might be like 1 or 2 people who bring it that end up doing well. They don't see the bad variance in the deck, and they play it tightly enough, and they can get there enough. Because you do have a pretty good Aurora matchup. That's like one of her best things, but she's a shadow hero that's not chain, so she just loses to herself sometimes. You just draw stuff in the wrong order. Your setups don't line up the way you need it to. You're not able to get over a deck who just blocks 12 every turn.
Yeah, not having your incants fast enough or your malefics fast enough, or having to burn your Vexing Quill hand really quickly could lead to being unable to convert with full tempo, which is kind of sad.
I think Florian can kind of mess her up too.
Yeah.
I think she might be like 5%, but like power would be like near KO.
So like here.
Yeah.
I could see that. Yeah.
So I'm already kind of seeing this trend that this meta looks more open than it
actually is. Yeah.
Yeah. We might be in a meta that's more open, which is actually interesting. If we're putting so many heroes here, I guess that
really
just
what
means
the trend is that there's gonna be we expect there to be a lot of heroes that aren't popular that do well, which means that we think that the heroes are better than the general consensus would be, I guess, right? Because those 3 right now in contenders are going to take up a lion's share of the percentage, but there are a lot of other decks who are actually really strong as well.
Yeah. Basically, we're saying that we respect these heroes, and we
I do think about them
less.
Yeah.
I think we're going to get flamed like crazy for putting me this low, but screw it. We got to have some controversy.
Yeah, put her lower. Yeah. It's okay.
All right. Okay, so that's been set. Let's talk about another hero. What do you guys want to talk about?
How about
Teklovossen?
Teklovossen?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
All right. So I have heard that there is a very degenerate Teklovossen build with CYB running around. But
I mean, what else would there be?
But the deck has the most polarizing matchups you've ever seen in your life.
Really?
Oh, really?
Interesting.
So yeah. So if you want to play Brute but not play Brute, you just want to roll Gem Roulette dice and have the 0.1% chance to become a absolute legend and top 8 of Pro Tour with Teklovossen, go for it. Play
people
that'd be pretty cool.
People get upset that like Illusionist and Wizard like gatekeep decks.
Yeah.
But do you really want to play a meta where like Fatigue Teklovossen is running around everywhere?
Yeah.
Like you have to deal with that. Like
nope.
Yeah.
I feel like Enigma's doing us a service here, you know.
The only danger of Teklovossen is that your opponents are going to have to read all your cards like 4 times, and you're probably going to go to time at least twice. So,
yeah.
They don't know how base evos work.
Yeah, they're like, oh, you could do that? Oh, you just,
which one's that?
You played it for the Banish Zone? Oh, yeah, I remember that vaguely.
Wait. So do you get Intellect here, or do you get... Wait. So it's the same name, right? And you're like...
Yeah.
It goes underneath the hero?
So I'm a different hero now, like Levia, right? So I'm not.
So you're a shadow hero?
All right. TLDR.
Put him
There
on the
might be
bottom.
One player. I've noticed there's always been like one or two Teklovossens since
They're waiting.
Barcelona.
They're waiting.
Even when like
Although-
Dromai was super popular, there was always like the one guy playing Teklovossen.
I heard a murmur that apparently Teklovossen is only like a handful of cards away from being just disgusting.
Yeah. By handful, it's like a whole deck. They didn't specify how big the hand was.
A handful.
A handful.
I think a lot of heroes are a handful of cards away from being absolutely broken.
So.
All right, we'll put Tekla in the corner with Katsu and Olympia. But if you sit down across a Teklovossen,
I'm sweating.
You are either so happy because you have an auto win matchup, or you are sweating bullets.
Dude, I'll tell you right now, if the guy says that he's on Teklo, I might just concede. I'd be so petrified.
You're gonna get pulled for a feature match. You can't concede
Oh,
feature
dude,
matches.
Dude, I'll be in a pet sweat because, like, I don't want to lose to Teklovossen on stream at the Pro Tour. That's even more nerve wracking.
I love the idea of
Taylor
Taylor.
AB now, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. That's another thing is that they've been constantly they've printed Teklovossen some help. So now
they're
he doesn't
giving
just lose to
It
Wizards.
keeps getting shittier, and it keeps getting shittier.
Yeah,
It's
you're
like-
more and more tempted to put things into your deck that doesn't help your main game plan against 95% of decks. So.
Hey, that's a curious thing. Is it actually like printing help if you print a hero like a expansion slot card that helps him a little bit, but then that set is like heroes that just push him further out of the meta? Like,
Yeah.
I love Rosetta.
All right. Well, speaking of Rosetta, and you mentioned Wizard, let's talk about Verdance. This is a hero that is actually quite interesting because people have been slowly cutting their AB, their Oasis, but that's not the only thing. Like Verdance is, if we have like Aurora on one side and we have Kano on the other side, in the middle you have decks like Viscerai and Florian and Verdance. This is a hero that deals mixed damage, can play a tempo-based game with the strong Earth cards, could play for a more setup-based strategy with healing potions and going for, amp with rampant, with the heal and all that. Has access to Storm Striders, starts with 40 health. On paper, that already is kind of broken. Verdance is terrorizing Blitz. Verdance is a hero that you basically have to dedicate sideboard slots to in Blitz now. This hero...
I don't know why they unbanned Storm Striders and Blitz. That seemed like a
I don't know
mistake.
either. But, so...
I mean, Verdance is just budget Icelander, right? Like, you're doing I'm going to play really efficient hands. I'm going to throw my 2-card Fellings, block with the rest of my cards, and then try and get you into a low position where I can kill you with Storm Striders. And then she has these, like, life gain combos and value things that can shore up other types of matchups.
Instead of getting to chip you on your turn, she just gains life. And that's kind of what makes up that difference.
Yeah.
Should they have named her Earthlander? Like, do you think more people would be playing her if that was the name?
I mean,
That'd
that
be
could be your
awesome, actually.
nickname, Earthlander.
Just make that a cycle.
Yeah.
Dude, actually,
We can get Firelander next.
do that.
Ooh, I like it.
We find out they're all just like the same hero.
Oh,
It's
Lightning
like
Lander
Arakni
would not be
with,
fun to
Lightning
play
Lander.
against.
Shadowlander.
Shocklander would
Shocklander.
ruin you.
That's right.
You could play reds from your arsenal on my turn? Holy. Oh.
But you
Wah, wah,
only
wee,
play reds
wah.
in your deck. It's like an Emperor situation.
How about they could play attack actions at instant speed? Huh?
Whoa, whoa, whoa.
The judge
I don't
would have a...
That'd be tough.
I just don't know how to like compare Verdance to something like Florian, because you're kind of in a similar boat where you're this like mid-rangey deck that ramps up once your hero power gets online. You also have a bad Enigma matchup. I don't know if it's better or worse than Florian's. It might be a little better, to be honest.
I think she's worse than Florian.
Maybe worse.
Personally, yeah. Just like
Maybe
a step, like not much, but
she doesn't have the
Florian.
like super fridge that Florian has, which means that she
Exactly.
actually has a lot more scary situations when she plays into like Aurora.
Yeah.
Because Aurora's just throwing like 4, and I mean she plays like Stonewall Gauntlet and she has the chess piece, but
Right.
other than that, like, you know, she doesn't have the defensive value on her boots. If she's playing the plume, she doesn't have it on her hat. So she's really relying on the D-reacts there. But she's playing more no blocks, and I don't know.
This hero, very, very similar to Florian, very, very hard to evaluate. If I had to take a guess, it's going to be somewhere around Vynnset and Florian.
Put her holding hands next to Jarl.
Right over here.
Yeah.
Match made in heaven.
That's right.
I think she's.
I actually think that this hero is kind of just. I don't know, man. It seems like sometimes they're not doing anything.
Exactly. I think this is another one that boils down to
ping, Storm Striders, you're dead. I'm like, oh, huh?
I think it's another one that boils down to if you have a game plan going into the Verdance matchup, I think you're probably going to be okay. You know what she's trying to do, and you know what you're trying to do. But if you don't really have the matchup understood, she's probably just going to have her way with you. So I think this is going to come down to the player skill.
Yeah.
The Earth heroes have a problem converting hands. Sometimes
That
like
too,
there's a lot of times where Verdance, like the best thing she can do is like Surgent Aethertide, you know, play Rampant Growth, play like a blue Zap, or like cast Autumn's Touch, you know, or like they IP a D-React or something like that. Like if they're not being attacked enough to where they can fully block out if they want to, they just sometimes like can't do anything beyond, okay, well, I have the Felling, but I don't have a use for these other cards. So I guess I'll pitch a card to my 1 arcane damage that isn't going to matter.
Sure. Okay, we'll put her there. So,
but she still wins games.
Maybe this was the father and mother of Oldham. Something like that. All right.
Oldham got split up into 2 heroes.
Yeah.
All right.
We need a Draconic hero. Pick a Draconic hero.
I kind of want to talk about Fi. I know we should talk about Cindra, but I kind of want to talk about Fi.
Fi's been around.
I love Fi
for a long time.
And he got a whole set, and it did nothing for him.
Yeah, people.
That's not true, actually. He got better cards.
When the Hunted came out, everybody was like, oh my god, is Fi back, guys? Like, Fi won Worlds in 2023. Fi was the most represented deck at Worlds 2022. And then now it's like, oh.
Well, they printed 0 cards that have anything to do with Phoenix Flames, and every card that they made is like based around daggers. So,
not even
he got slight upgrades on some of his Draconic Ninja attacks because there's some that you would just rather run the new ones. But for the most part,
he definitely got stuff he needed. Like he got some more starters, you know, Oath of Loyalty and like Ignite. Just he needed more Draconic cards to keep his like theme going. The boots are pretty solid. He did get some upgrades, but as a deck, he's been suffering a little bit since the Art of War ban. And I think that his spikes aren't as good. Pouncing Link's still being able to guarantee like 6 to 9 value every game offensively is pretty good. It gives you a little bit of a leg up a lot of the time. I don't think he's bad. He's very consistent. And if you just want like a consistent, I do the thing aggro deck and I don't want to think about it too much, like it's not a bad pick.
He's super consistent. If you want to throw some D-Reacts in there, he's good at blocking. He's got pretty good armor. He's just not exactly explosive enough. I don't think he's doing anything that's super impressive. Like, it's good, it's consistent, but it's not knocking your socks off. And I think that's unfortunately what's...
does have access to... kind of like Zen, he has access to D-Reacts, he has access to Shuko, access to that 1 go again attack each turn. So
I think he's like the aggro version. he's like the aggro version of Verdance. He like can get there and he does his thing, like not bad, but it's not consistently good enough to do it enough.
Yeah. There's not a lot of people playing him, and pretty Pretty middle of the road. I'd
Maybe
say
4 to
power
5
cost.
people playing him, huh?
Yeah, something like that.
Okay. We'll put him over there. You guys will notice that I have shrunk down the heroes a little bit, so now we can actually kind of fit them.
Yeah, it's fitting nicely. I like that.
All right.
All right. Now the real Draconic Ninja, Cindra.
Okay, sure. All right, so
I say real though, but man, she took a hit.
It is no secret that this hero has fallen very, very far from the early days of February back in Memphis. People know how to block her. People know how to play against her. And that really is the key. This is a hero that has some issues in terms of like very consistent damage, but not the highest damage in the world. So she gets out damaged by Aurora, and Zen doesn't block as well. Doesn't block basically at all. This is the hero that you're most likely to hear no blocks from in the game, I think, at the moment. And yeah, Shelter from the Storm, very, very good card against her, and just running 55.5 reds can lead to problems.
She is similar to Aurora in that she does not do very well at blocking with her cards that are in hand. However, offensively, she's a bit harder, or she's a bit easier to stop because a lot of her attacks are for 3. The Flick Knives Mask Momentum thing does usually mean that your opponent has to commit an extra card defensively to deny those Mask Momentum triggers. But when you're playing matchups where that is part of their game plan anyways, and they're fine doing that, it's a little bit tough to get over that because you don't have the spike turns that well, like without forcing the Mask Momentum hits. And you're not pressuring enough breakpoints a lot of the time to make it awkward enough for them. And then another big thing is that she just doesn't have the armor that Aurora does. So disruptive attacks and like just total life at the start of the game is just lower, where like Aurora can say, oh, you know, my hand's really good here. This is the time to go. I'm going to cash in my Crown of Providence or my Purgatory to stop the disruption, or I'm going to use my Grasp and my the chess piece, you know, to block a bunch. Cindra can't do that. She can't block with her hat. She can't block with her gloves. She can't block with her chest. She gets one block on her boots, and that's it. And one block boots is only ever good if it's combined with like a card from hand anyways. So she can't block anything.
That, and whenever you play Aurora into her, Aurora is very favored into Cindra once you learn how to block around Mask Momentum with equipment and D-Reacts, such as Sigil, because Sigil is always going to hit, so you can always get 4 to 7 value, depending on CLF. So you find out that like if you just block with equipment early on turns, you can just gain 10 to 15 life tempo, and you can just ride that to a win usually.
Yeah, Cindra ain't stopping your burn up shocks.
She just takes them to the dome.
So is it as simple? She might be the hero that belongs in the green then, because I think some people show up with her. Is it true?
Is she going to be popular at Pro Tour though? She was very popular in the 2 callings recently. She was the number 3rd most played deck at both.
Do you think it is as simple as just people learned how to block her? Because she came out the gate swinging, but then people realized, okay, if I'm going to stop the mass trigger, I have to block like this, and that really kind of made her take a nosedive. That's impressive.
People also actually have Shelter from the Storm now, so
that too.
Well, some people.
Okay. Some people this call probably still don't. I'm that people. I need to buy a playset for London.
I got you, Will.
They're expensive now.
I don't know if we could say she's going to be 10%. I really feel like...
Yeah, I think that's too much.
I think that's a bit too much.
You think she's going to be played less than new?
You're crazy if you think that.
Yeah, there are some people who bought Cindra as their first hero. I have a few people...
And they're all going to the Pro Tour.
Well, that's a good
Really?
No, they're not.
Like surely, like Cindra players at this point have to know that they're kind of coping.
Okay,
right?
yeah. Let's talk about pro player copium levels. What are pro player copium levels at right now?
Registering new.
I mean,
Like, what's the most cope? Like bringing Prism to that one tournament where Briar was like unstoppable. Aaron, you brought her to that, right?
Oh, Lil?
Pro Tour 2?
Yeah.
Prism
Pro
won
Tour.
the calling.
Oh no, not
Yeah.
that one. Then what was the one that Tariq won? What did Tariq Patel win? I guess that was just U.S. Nats.
Yeah.
Bringing
was
Prism
US
to U.S. Nats. I
Oh,
think
that
that's
was
pretty cope.
that was like Briar meta though, like
Yeah.
That was
uneroded
before
Briar.
Briar had
Right.
the
Yeah, uneroded
nerf.
Briar. Yeah, I think that was pretty cope. Bringing Prism to that.
Yeah,
Yeah, stopping Herald with one attack, one non-attack.
I was saying tome.
I
block
didn't even do that.
Yeah, me neither. I wanted to, but I didn't.
Okay, so just to recap, the general consensus or the general narrative is that Cindra is not as good as she used to be because people are smarter now. But people are still invested in their deck, and she's still doing a thing.
I think where it would come in would be people who want to try and bring or crack a different version of Cindra, not like the 60 red version where you're just playing all head jabs and using chest for 1-for-7s and trying to get magic momentum draws with flick knives. Like, if there is a good version of Cindra that actually pitches, and maybe throws daggers a little more consistently.
Aaron, don't give away our tech, bro.
Oh yeah, sorry. Spreading flames. Anyways, pitch Cindra, I would think that would be the copium pick.
Okay.
Maybe,
it might be good.
Yeah, I
know.
could see that.
All right. Are we happy with the position right here?
I think that's fine.
It's
Yeah.
green. Let's go. We got a green one.
Yes, we got
We'll
one
have a
green.
green.
We got an overrated piece of crap deck. Let's go.
Ooh, speaking of piece of crap decks, let's talk about Oscillo. Take it away, Taylor.
Oh, no.
Hey.
Wait. To be fair,
You're
I
so
think
right, actually.
Oscillo is like literally one of the decks is like very good in LL and like not
Sure.
that great in
He's not
classic
even overrated though. Who says that Ophelio is good?
Yeah, you're right. He's not. He's just.
Oscillo is perfectly rated. He's one of those heroes that, like, if Jim, rolls your way and you draw well, you could top 8 a tournament. But if it doesn't, you just auto lose and you go home.
If you set up your sigils and then you draw a Gone in a Flash or Blast Oblivion and you have a arcane spell in your hand, then you probably win the game. But
Yep.
there's a lot of games where that doesn't happen and you lose.
Yeah, it's a good
This
point.
hero was designed around the books. This hero was.
We assume.
Yeah, was.
This
was
could be
designed,
crazy with Tome of Aetherwind.
Yeah, this hero is actually quite good in LL format because you could do like some crazy things. But
He is not playable. There might be one or two, I would say. But the thing is, like, the issue is, like, I can't say he has a low power level because he has a high power level. He's just super inconsistent. Like, his turn to turn is like, if you throw any disruption at me, my hand blocks literally 2. And I have 2 armor.
yeah, so you're more likely to hear Cindra blocking than Oscillo. Oscillo might be the
That's
number one
funny.
no blocking hero of the game.
Maybe.
And it's not by choice.
Yeah.
It's just like,
All right. So you think there's like 1 or 2 people playing, so I guess we'll put him right against you.
yeah. But I think he's stronger than Bravo. Yeah, right there.
Oh no, not even close.
That's called Pro Tour copium right there. He's
I'm not bringing Bravo.
Oh my god. We could give Bravo Oscillio's body.
There we go. Yeah.
I like that.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
As long as I'm on top.
There you go. Or we could give Oscillio Bravo's body. So, okay. We'll put him over there.
Do you want to have a nice, fun discussion about Rhinar?
So I know there's going to be at least one Rhinar at Pro
There
Tour
will be
London.
definitely at least one.
For sure.
Maybe the best one.
One
yeah.
player, 10 out of 10 viability.
Yes. So for those of you who have watched Nathan's tier list, he literally put but a Eugene in S tier, right? So this is a hero that I feel is fundamentally very strong, but pro players are allergic to variance. But if you can embrace it, like just hearing Eugene talk about this deck, I understand why he plays this at every tier 4 event, because he understands expected value and can do all the calculations because he's played thousands of games with this hero. So he knows when he's supposed to roll. He knows when he's supposed to search for Blood Rush Bella with Sand Sketch Plan. Like he knows when to do all these things. However, your typical Reinhardt is not going to know when to do all those things. And this is a hero, like, I feel like maybe this is a theme of WTR, but you make mistakes with this hero, you probably lose.
Yep.
Now, Eugene has told me that rolling a 1 is not necessarily a mistake, right? So that is a risk that you took and you are now even further behind. Or maybe you were ahead, now you fall behind, but it's not over. So they have constantly been printing good brute cards. Let's just think about, like, since WT, let's say since Crew. Let's not consider anything in WTR Crew. What have they printed? They printed Pulping and Monarch. They printed Swing Big and Everfest. They printed
Bad Beats and Everfest.
Bad Beats, yeah. Savage Sash. They printed Scowling Flesh Bag. They printed Gone Send Packing. They printed
that
the one from
Heavy,
the heavy hitters, Rhinar spec.
Yep.
I forget what it's called, but it's pretty good.
No Fear, but yeah, it's the one
No Fear's not pretty good too.
Yeah. The only thing he needs is another blue 6 power, but I don't know if he's ever going to get it because this is like secretly the
They're kind of
light.
scared to do that.
Yeah, he's got powerful effects like Beast Within, Savage Feast. Like, this deck has a powerful thing. It's a flexible deck, but pro players are just allergic to variance. But it's very, very
metagame
beautiful.
wise, like, you're really, really good into defensive decks. So Earth decks you are really good into because they want to block with their D-Reacts, they want to block with their Earth cards, they want to play a specific card in their hand. If you intimidate their Rootbound Carapace, their whole turn falls apart, and then they can't do anything on their turn. You're really good into Enigma because, for a similar reason, Enigma really likes to plan out and structure their hands in a certain way. And when Rhinar throws the Intimidate triggers out, the Enigma's forced into these really awkward positions where it's like, and maybe she has some instant speed stuff, but like she has to decide, like, oh, am I supposed to instant in response to Intimidate, or does that even put me more behind? What can I even do if certain cards get intimidated or not? Like, it's just really annoying. However, common intimidate problem historically against aggro, like Aurora doesn't really care what you intimidate. Like, either kill me or don't, I'm going to kill you.
Yeah.
Yep. So I think this hero is probably, like, here, if I had to guess. But there's not going to be very many people playing it. Just by the nature of the deck. The deck requires way too many reps for a hero that is going to frustrate you as you get those reps.
Let's go. We put Rhinar better than new.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Okay.
Bring on the haters.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's kind of wrap up WTR. Let's talk about my favorite hero.
All right.
I shouldn't say that. I love all my children equally. But my first love is Dorinthea. Okay, so let's chit-chat a little bit about Dorinthea. Dorinthea had some very, very, very solid results in Brazil in the Calling and in the Battle Hardened. And I actually think with perfect play, the top 8 looks completely different. Because the guy who ended up winning Calling Brazil should have lost his top 8 game, frankly. But so Dorinthea can be built several different ways. TLDR, most decks are going to be aggro, Unga Bunga Dawnblade, or they're going to be CYB Dawnblade. Hatchets has kind of fallen out of favor. There's been some cute builds with Saber Dagger that never really came to fruition. If you're playing a Decimator Great Axe build, sure. The issue with that is that if you are relatively well known, by round 2, everybody in the room is going to know that you're on that, so that's not really good. You really need to surprise people that you're playing DGA. So, okay, so the two main builds, aggro Dawnblade, traditionally very, very, very solid against aggro decks. So decks like Dio, Azalea, Zen, Aurora, these are all fine matchups for aggro Dawnblade. So those with Glistening Steelblade, Twitting Blade, Spoils of War, possibly even running Courage of Bladehold, like that's how aggressive I'm talking. Now, obviously Zen and Aurora do run some D-Reacts. However, the Unga Bunga Dawnblade style often just plows through that and says, okay, you tried to stop me and failed, now you lose the game. So that's typically how those matchups go. They try to stop you, they fail, they lose the game. On the other hand, you have the CYB Dory decks that are trying to basically block out those type of decks. They're playing way, way, way slower. Changes your matchup spread completely. You go from being not awful against Enigma to being pretty bad. You start getting percentage points against decks like Verdance and Florian. You might even be running some extra, if you have that much life gain, you can deal with Vynnset in a cheesy way. And if you're a CYB deck, you generally are stocked to the brim with D-Reacts, so you can start fatiguing decks like Slippy and Dash IO. So I would say that both styles of Dory are actually like B tier at the moment. And the beauty is that you don't know which one you're going to sit down against. And even if they flip Dawnblade, which I think 90% of the time in this meta they're going to flip Dawnblade, you don't know which style of Dawnblade they are, unless they're running Courage, then it's obvious. So definitely a sleeper pick, definitely low meta share, but I have felt in testing that you basically have to craft your deck to be good or bad against certain things and just take the coin flip. Which is actually kind of feels bad because traditionally Dory had a very, very stable matchup spread. But then Illusionist came around and ruined it all over again.
The classic.
And Earth Heroes also kind of ruined it, so...
Okay, at least it's not just Illusionist.
Yeah. So
also, it's like super D-React meta, right? So it's not like...
Yes, I will say that. Yeah, so those two decks actually deal with all the D-Reacts in a very interesting way. The Unga Bunga deck says, sure, you have a lot of D-Reacts. So you're going to be tempted to attempt to stop me. And if you fail, you lose the game. And the CYB deck says, all right, you got D-Reacts? Great. This game's going to second cycle anyways. Your offense sucks now. Let's go. So the only, I think D-Reacts only punish very blindly aggressive Dorintheas, which, from my observations of random Talishar games, there are a lot of Unga Bunga Dories in the world. But I don't think having this many D-Reacts is actually that bad for Dory at the moment. Because she can tech in some cards like Dauntless, or just include extra attack reacts, or even bring back some large attack reacts like Rout and Overpower, which basically... Rout and Overpower are really how you win games against decks that are running only 0 for 4 D-Reacts. Because, like I said, they attempt to stop you, they fail, they lose the game generally. So, yeah, I'm going to put You guys have any other thoughts about Dory before I kind of place her? Crickets, as I expected. Okay. I actually know of a decent amount of Dory players that are actually bringing her to Pro Tour.
What weapon are they playing? And what equipment and sideboard configurations? Let me write that down.
Let's just say that there's a thorough following of Dory players in the world.
I tend to trust the master, so I trust your opinion on Dory. But I wouldn't be surprised to see a decent amount of her.
Almost the same as Slippy, honestly. Like you see the right matchups, you'll be fine. I actually think she's probably, I don't know.
Let's put more heroes above new. Yes.
Well, we'll hide Dory.
No, I think Dory's solid.
Yeah.
She's reasonable. I think it's fine.
Again, I will stress that Jagged Edge is not the solution you think it is, but if you have Jagged Edge and Twinning Blade, okay, maybe.
Okay.
Now we're talking.
Now we're gaming.
But a lot of decks recently have started to cut Twinning Blade and Singing Steel Blade and stuff like that, and that obviously hurts your Enigma matchup tremendously. But if you configured your Dory deck like Chorus of Iron Song, 3 Chorus of Iron Song, 3 Jagged Edge, 3 Twinning Blade, 3 Singing Steel Blade, 9 Warrior's Valor, like, okay, that
I'm gonna be so tilted.
Yeah, you can get there. Courage and Blade Hold, like, oh, okay, now we're talking. Okay, 3 Dauntless, 6 Dauntless, maybe. All right, we're gonna put Dory there. Okay, let's
clean up the rest of these like Garbo heroes.
All right, Maxx.
Yeah, we don't need to spend a lot of tech. Maxx, Betsy, OG Arakni, like all of those.
They all can kind of.
They're the same as what they have been since for a while now. There's not a ton talking about. Maxx lost high octane. He doesn't have an identity. We'll wait to see what the armory deck does for him, but for now, it's like don't play him.
Yeah. He can go over there.
Betsy is the same thing as Bravo. You're probably playing some weird fatigue build, but you don't have Bravo specs, so you're probably worse at it. And
she has a fantastic Teklovossen matchup, man.
Oh man,
sweet.
Oh yeah, the one Betsy will pair into the one Teklovossen.
And then old school Arakni. I mean, that's funny. He probably did get some buffs, but it's not enough. Especially, you could just play Mario or Slippy and have a much better time.
Yeah, they obviously have shelved Contract for a little bit while they rethink how they want to design that mechanic in favor of pumping the stealth keyword for assassins. So you just don't really have any payoffs for your contracts. You're just doing everything worse than all the other assassins. So I know they're fans of OG Arakni, but you should probably have to suck it up and play one of the newer ones for now. Yeah.
This is a deck that's very... LSS has to very, very carefully monitor cards that they print for this hero, because if a mill deck becomes tier 1, that's probably not a good sign for the game.
I mean, new is like the closest thing to a mill deck, right?
Yeah, and people complain all the time about new, so, you know.
And I will continue.
One of them.
All right, so we'll put Arakni in the corner with Olympia and his friends.
Yeah.
I just want to play Macho Grande again. Please.
All right. You just want to play Macho Grande.
So does New. Who wants to play Macho Grande too?
I mean, James White did once say that Macho Grande was a mistake, so.
Yeah, well, then he printed New and said, have fun and not playing that.
Imagine if it's free.
Yeah. All right. Well, this hero runs Macho Grande, right? Ed, why don't you tell us a little bit about Victor?
It doesn't care about the new rules. It just does what it wants.
Yeah.
I think this deck is like basically as good as Jarl. It's like pretty close in this specific meta because it has a decent matchup against like Aurora. All the block cards and being able to just play the disruption and things that are already in there has a lot of a go again toolkit. So theoretically, it would be better against Enigma, but it's not. Which means that it's not as good still. But yeah, overall, and he just has added variance, right? So the way I kind of look at it is the Jarl is the more consistent deck. Even though you can build it a bunch of different ways, you can build it the way you need it to. This deck has a lot more like more favored matchups, but it has a lot more less favored matchups, right? Like it's a little more polarizing. So, but that being said, I'd say it's still about the same-ish as Jarl. Actually, I've been looking at this. I think Jarl should be a little bit higher because if you're putting like Rhinar higher, I think he's honestly a little bit not better than Rhinar specifically, but I think he's better than where he's at. And Victor will be kind of next to that and probably just a little less played. Like right there is probably where you want to be.
We'll make sure his horse is standing out.
You think Jarl's going to be more popular than Victor?
I don't. Or sorry, yes, I think Jarl will be more popular than Victor, but I don't think it'll be by much, just because his cards in the toolkit that he has is generally a little bit better. But I mean, Golden Sun is very good too. Very good.
We also have that theme of Pro Tour players want stability. Jarl is more stable, whereas Victor is a little bit more unga bunga.
Victor's very powerful. He just obviously the new and the Enigma is a major issue.
Yeah. In terms of clashes, he really shouldn't lose any of these clashes, right?
Well, you would think, but then you still, you trounce and flip over a pummel against your opponent's like persuasive prognosis, and you want to flip the table. But it is what it is. And because of that variance, like you said, pro players are allergic to variance. And when you're having to play a bunch of D-reacts like Alter and Sink Below, if you choose to add those to your sideboard, which I think is correct to add at least one set, you're adding more variance, right? So, especially if you're playing like Seismic Stir, or not Seismic Stir, the other one, Roiling Fissure, right? If that's like in your blue base tech, to be able to like just have a little bit more game into Prism, for instance, or Enigma, you're adding more variance, which is a bad thing. If we had the new cards like the 6 for 10 that says damage can't be prevented, if it's going to crush and it also blows up equipment, he'd be pretty good. He'd be all right. I'd actually consider playing him. I think he'd be better than Jarl.
Oh, wow.
But we do not live in that world.
Well, I guess we'll see you at Worlds then.
Yeah.
Heck yeah.
See your Victor at Worlds.
I'll be playing Valda.
I'm probably going to play Bravo at Worlds because I'm fingers crossed that he gets some really good things that make it better. And New is gone. Like New has to leave.
I don't know. At this rate, where we put her, maybe not.
I know, but I can hope, right?
Yeah. Okay, so we have 8 heroes left. This is a theoretical top 8. And never mind. Boltyn's in there, so maybe not.
Why don't we tackle Dash IE?
Yeah. All right, so this is the hero that is almost LL'd for like
she's
the
practically
last
there.
year.
She did not get a single LL point this season.
Which is wild.
I don't know how. Because
Turns out
like,
high octane's important.
yeah, but like conceptually, she still has got like Teklo Core, Spark of Genius. I mean, she's not like struggling for bad cards. Like there was like 3 Oscillios that won a Pro Quest, but you're telling me that a Dash can't like that? No,
Nobody wanted the player.
Yeah, that's exactly what it really is.
Fatigue pistol dash with CYB or something. Like they couldn't cheese one somewhere.
Surely that would cheese something.
Like, I just think that she's just underplayed. Like that's it for what her power level is. She's just underplayed.
She's definitely not dumpster tier. It's just people don't play her.
So losing high octane does mean you lose that switchboard style on paper. That makes you a little bit more predictable. Like they could kind of predict that you're going to be slab setup fatigue dash.
Yeah.
Or you're going to be a bad version of Dio if you're playing offense. So
if you're aggro, you should just play Dash IO. If you're pistol defensive, then you just get thrown into the stew with every other hero that can't beat Enigma right now, right? So you might as well just play Teklovossen.
That's a great point.
You can't go wide enough to clear the board with. I guess you can only fire 4 times, right? So
no, you have to cast like 4 items.
Yeah,
you're just dead by then.
Yeah, their board is built by way before you build up.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
Okay. Where are we putting Dash? Probably
I
next
think
to
she's still
Teklovossen.
like relatively strong, but like Aaron
Put her
said,
above Kassai.
Enigma really
Wait,
just
this hero
wants her-
has won callings before.
Yeah.
It won the Baltimore
We're
calling.
about-
She could still with Kassai.
Yeah, whatever.
She could
It's
still
like-
with
it's
Kassai.
like- Yeah. Perfect. She's not like dumpster tier. Like she's reasonable, but she's not gonna be popular, and I don't think there's just like a big advantage of playing her.
Sure.
Mhm.
All right. Another fundamentals based hero that is from a long time ago. Sort of. I guess she's one of the more recent heroes now.
Oh, yeah, the first hero though.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
So this is a deck that can actually be built in quite a few different ways. The standard build nowadays is 1 into something disruptive or 1/1 into something moderately disruptive. So they run a lot of 1 cost, 5 power on hits like Censor,
Mhm.
Sound the Alarm. That's quite good in this current metagame. Things like Command and
She's just
Conquer, Erase Face, Amnesia. You know, if it's a 2 for 6 or 1 for 5 with an on hit, she's running it, and then she just stacks her deck with 12 D-Rigs and calls it a day.
Yeah, she's like the ultimate mid-range deck. She's like a stat check hero. You must be this tall to ride. Can you get over what I'm doing, right? If you can't beat block 6 to 8, throw 8 every turn, then you're not winning the game, right?
Yeah.
I think that she being a ninja and having Kodachis and enough like go again cards in her kit alleviates some of the downsides that some of the other very grindy mid-range decks have into things like Illusionist, because she has the ability to actually slant a little bit more aggressive in a meaningful way to make that matchup not super bad. So I think she's much more reasonable into something like Enigma is than like an Earth hero would be or a Guardian. However, she lacks a little bit of power that some of the other heroes would have. I think that her synergies with her equipment aren't really there because of how simplistic her hero is. She isn't really like tailor-made for specific interactions. So a lot of the things that she ends up playing just feel a little wishy-washy. She plays Mask Momentum because it's her best option, but it's not like particularly amazing a lot of the times in what she's doing. She doesn't really have a great arm slot that fits into what she's trying to do. She doesn't have the fridge that like Brutes and Guardians and Earth heroes do. But she is very flexible in that she can swap between offense and defense. It's just a little bit tough to put a consistent list that can do both things at the same time without running into consistency issues, because she does fall into that category of she's not an all blue deck or an all red deck, and she wants like exactly 1 blue card per hand. And if she doesn't have the blue or she has too many blues, she really stumbles quite a lot. So she has holes, but overall she has a solid matchup spread. She's a great, if you just love like mid-range math and you don't want to like auto lose to any matchup, and you don't want to play one of these top, contender high tier meta heroes right now, I think she's very solid. She's very middle of the road. She hasn't been crazy popular recently, so I think she'll have a fairly low meta share, but she'll probably stick around somewhere in this pack of heroes we have going around in the dark horse.
Yeah. If I had to guess, somewhere like kind of around here. I could see like 12 to 16 people playing her. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll put Ira right there then. All right. Let's talk about our 2 Monarch heroes that got left behind.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about Boltyn. So it is no secret. It is no secret that I'm not considering Boltyn for Pro Tour. This is a hero that there's something fundamentally missing about this hero, and it generally has to do with the fact that he has to charge a card to have a turn. basically killed off the combo version of him, which I thought was a very interesting deck, right? Because we had Kano combo, which is a magic-based or arcane-based combo, and Boltyn was pretty much the only physical damage-based combo in the game. I guess Skalata was also around back when combo Boltyn was really, really good. But basically, they've been pushing and pushing and pushing Boltyn players towards playing Raiden. And that basically means you have to keep a near full grip to have a meaningful turn of offense. And the games are very swingy in terms of, like, did you draw via the Vanguard fast enough? Did you charge a Spirit of Arena quick enough? His equipment, there have been so many equipment pieces printed for Boltyn, but none of them really solve he has two main issues. One is that he always has to go down a card to have a turn. Now, I understand that Boltyn would have been bonkers if in Monarch Draft if he had a slightly different hero ability, so they can't really print anything like that, but he needs some help to help with that card disadvantage that he's constantly having to churn through. Another thing is he can be fatigued, which is actually kind of sad when you think about it. Like, warriors really shouldn't be fatigable very easily. You think about all the other heroes, like Dawnblade Dory or Dual Wield Kassai. These are very, very resilient decks, whereas Boltyn can just kind of run out of gas. And that also leads into another problem where it's like, okay, it's late game. I have like 10 cards left in my deck, and I have like 7 cards in my soul. What am I going to do with that? Like, if you don't run Remembrance and get back Cataclysms or something like that, like, we need a better soul outlet as well. So basically, the hero is not doing anything strong enough, and it's still, even after 20 cards have been printed for him after Monarch came out, he still doesn't feel like a complete hero.
The whole deck.
Every single time they print a warrior card, it doesn't slot nicely into Boltyn. Like, Blade Flurry. Okay, do I really want to run Blade Flurry in my Boltyn deck? Unless you're a particular style, no. Provoke? No. Like, yeah.
Well, Boltyn's kind of like an attack action warrior, right? And all the other warriors are very weapon focused, and all the warrior cards they're printing are about the weapons, right? So until we get the next Monarch set, and maybe they print some actual good, like, light cards, then Boltyn's just kind of stuck doing the same thing he's been doing, which is kind of restrictive, you know? Like, Prism's a very similar boat where, you know, obviously Prism has a higher power level than Boltyn, but the light talent is very restrictive in the cards you play because it cares about things like cards being light, cards being yellow, so you don't have as much room. I would assume Boltyn probably doesn't. You can't just throw 9D reacts in Boltyn and be happy about it, right?
No, you can run Saving Grace and Soul Shield to slot very nicely in, but as soon as you start adding Shelter, Sync, you become a very, very clunky deck. I will also note that both of the Fables printed basically a Prism Fables library and Light of Soul. You technically can play them, but yeah. So I don't expect to see any Boltyn at Pro Tour London. We're not going to have a situation where there's one Boltyn in Lille or something like that because I'm not playing it. So yeah. Has Boltyn won a calling?
Low power
no, he's not. Right? Yeah. So he's going to go here. If you win a calling, you get a floor of at least 2.5. All right, we'll put Boltyn there. All right, let's talk about Levia, the other Forgotten Monarch hero. I kind of feel like this is kind of like Rhinar. It does, like, Rhinar, Kayo, Levia all feel kind of similar. They do what they're designed to do. Whether or not that's good enough.
You kind of have the Vynnset problem, right? It's like the shadow problem where you're going to lose to yourself probably at least one round. And
you start the tournament 0-1.
Yeah,
and go from there.
Levia is another hero that, like, on paper she seems nuts because she has the broken brute equipment. She can play Husk if, you know, it's optimal in the matchup. She can even play Sash, and she has more good Sash targets, right? She has the Shadow Realm Horror or whatever. Like, you hit a good Shadow Realm Horror banish on a Sash turn, and you just kill someone. Like, she does some pretty gross things. Turning into Blasphemette, like, the value is just crazy. She's just... Again, she can't really play the mid-rangey 4-block deal with arcane thing against Aurora, similarly to Kayo, and she has some consistency problems where sometimes she loses to herself. I just feel like she's not there against the top tier heroes to win enough times to, like, for her to be a great pick.
There's a lot of power.
Better or worse than New?
She's not better than New.
Okay.
She's definitely worse than New.
It's too bad because she is such a powerful hero, but
I want to say she's like
Like
around
that.
Victor level. Maybe just put her in that little hole. She's like fine. There might be a couple people bringing her, but I don't think
I
anyone's
wouldn't be
really
surprised to see like
excited
3
about
of
her.
them. Yeah.
This is one of the first times in a while where I haven't heard like, "Oh, this is finally Levia's time," or Levia. And it might be like maybe she didn't get a new card this set or whatever. But I feel like every big meta, they're like, "Oh, Levia is finally good. This is finally her time. She's going to break out," and she never did. And
maybe
I think
this will be the time.
this when no one says anything, this will finitally be the
Yeah.
time that she
That's
like
right.
top eights.
Yeah. Dory and Levia Copers are way up there. This is finally Dory's time. Finally Levia's time. Yeah.
I love how when it was Azalea's time, it really was her time. I guess it was kind of brief, but it was there.
All right, you got a pair of assassins. Let's talk about good old Uzuri. It's a hero I like quite a bit.
She's well designed.
You know, yeah, I think this is a very, very well-designed hero. This is a hero that's only going to get more and more and more powerful as time goes on, and more, 6 power stuff gets 2 cost 6 power stuff gets printed.
She's just not.
She has
doing
access
what
to
the other-
Codex. what did you say?
She's not better than New.
Yeah.
Oh no!
And that's like you're comparing. We have to compare the assassins. It's like they all do similar-ish things, just a bit differently. And there's not a ton of reason to play the worse version of an assassin, with the exception of slip through the cracks because you have a different meta consideration because of the way your hero power works. I feel like when you're comparing like Marionette to New to Uzuri, they don't tackle things differently as much. So it really just comes down to who has the best matchups and who does the thing better, right? Who doesn't get wrecked by Enigma the hardest while still being good into aggro. And I think overall, just Uzuri does it a bit worse than New. Although I think the hero is really sick. You have more disruptive options with like the shakedowns. You don't really benefit at all from the mark stuff. None of that has really fit into what Uzuri's are doing. But I really liked the Uzuri list that Colin Swisher top aided in the Battle Hardened in Charlotte recently. I thought that list was very clean. He played Censor and Cut Through the Cloth, which I thought was or Cut from the Same Cloth, which I thought was just a really, really cool interaction where you force your opponent to reveal your hand and then you throw a pumped up like dagger that if they block it, then you fork their decisions to where they have to give you cards either way because they either block the dagger and don't have a turn, or you follow it up with another disruption, or they don't block, then you throw like the Censor or something, what their hand is, so it's guaranteed. They can't defend it because they got hit by Spider's Bite, whatever. You flick knives or nerve scalpels, all the like sneaky assassin stuff. It's a sweet hero, sweet deck. You have a lot of options. I just think that it's not quite there yet. And I think only like, again, maybe dedicated Uzuri mains will probably bring her. So
A few, maybe.
Yeah, I agree with your analysis there. This is a hero that should, in theory, suffer from the amount of D-Reacts in the format. Like, traditionally, Assassin and Warrior don't really want to see a lot of D-Reacts, but at least Warrior has a more efficient weapon. Whereas Uzuri kind of has to take lines that really get stuffed by D-Reacts. So, there's also the issue of playing a very long game as Uzuri is you start becoming extremely predictable. It's like, okay, there's 3 CNCs in the graveyard. Now I know what to do. I saw 2 shakedowns, and I saw you pitch the other one. Okay, I know it's not that. And I think good players can kind of abuse that a little bit, especially in longer games. But in shorter games, she might be able to maintain the level of disruption that's necessary. Because we did see Uzuri win when Zen was running all over the place. But I guess Zens are built more defensively now, so
that's true.
Things are a little bit different now. Where do we want to put Uzuri?
I think she's gonna have a very, very low share, so like maybe 1 to 2%. But I mean, I think she's like up there with Azalea in terms of power levels. So maybe just 2 Azaleas left.
Whoa, no. She's definitely like.
I don't think she's that strong as Azalea right now.
She's like a Oscillo tier.
Yeah.
Is she?
And put her over there with Victor and Levia.
Yeah.
I liked everything that Aaron had to say about her, but I still think she's not quite up to
She's
snuff
fine
at the moment.
All right.
Mario.
Arakni Marionette. This is a hero that when it came out, was very, very, very popular. People were trying to break this deck.
Yeah.
But it seems like that is tempered off a little bit. This is still a hero that does pretty powerful things. Attacks in a unique way. If you aren't ready for... Like, if you don't have enough reps in this hero can run circles around you. Taylor, I believe you're the one that's played the most Mario. Would you like to tell us a little bit about Mario and the matchup spread?
Yeah, so Mario, in my opinion, at the beginning of the meta was very good until people figured out that Shelter from the Storm exists. Because the way that I've always played the hero was the first dagger, when you flick it, was a card advantage dagger, and the second was Storm Striders. So you'd always use it on your kill turn or to just kind of like edge out the tempo in late game. The issue is once people have figured that out, Mario has took such a hit to the face, it's insane, because his numbers are not on rate unless you are doing that. So he can actually just be completely stopped with 1 Shelter from the Storm. So like, let's say you keep a 4-card hand, you come in with like a Kiss of Death, they block 3, you flick it to try to get the +1 to have to go again, they Shelter the Storm, you just IP2 yourself. And that's what people have slowly figured out. So he's actually getting a little bit more defensive. I've seen builds with like Hardened Cross Wrap just for CNCs in the decks like that. I don't know if they're still doing that. They're playing like Stains, of course. The list I played was Tom, can't pronounce his last name, not even going to try. Tom's list from Memphis, and he updated it, pretty regularly. It's very fun. I think it's very interactive. Probably one of the more fun heroes to play. Big fan of the deck. I just think that once, similar to Cindra, once you learn how to attack it and how it's going to attack you, the deck gets much worse.
Yep. Okay, so this is a hero that only the most dedicated of players are going to be playing.
Yes.
I think it's worse than Uzuri.
I think it's worse than Uzuri. Wow. I don't know if it's... Well...
I think it's super bad.
Okay.
It's so destroyed by prevention of...
it's so bad.
And
it's
D-React.
so... Not even D-React. D-Reacts are fine because you can kind of like imagine like playing around them with your turn cycle.
But the shelters...
But shelters, or like even a calming breeze, oh my god.
You're so reliant on marking, and it's not there's not enough good ways to mark. You're really reliant on your hunter's claves, and to be honest, if your opponent just like blocks hunter's claves, like it's pretty
That's
tough.
funny.
So they really like need to rely on the flick knives for like that first really big one.
Yeah.
And if you get stuffed by, like Taylor said, the shelter, it's just brutal.
Yeah,
It's
okay.
your options are so much more limited because you're forced into marking and you're forced into hitting, compared to like Slippy, where Slippy can freely kind of do whatever they want because they don't need to mark for go again, and their go again can't be interrupted. So I just, again, I already said, like, just play whatever the best assassin is, and it ain't Mario.
It's Slippy.
Isn't that funny? Wow.
Mhm.
The other assassin's getting pushed down is propping Slippy up, and I'm here for it.
It
I mean,
was-
that's like
Yes.
one of the
It's
reasons
fine
why we think
assassins.
Slippy is like really good, because like Marionette is impossible for Slippy. That's like
So, yeah.
that is such a nightmare matchup. It's crazy.
Oh my gosh,
Because it's
dude.
like you're playing the same deck, but
Mhm.
they get the go again that you can't interrupt anymore because it doesn't have to hit, and they still get all the agents and the +1 damage and everything. It's so
Oh,
crazy.
yeah.
Well,
Jeez.
what makes it worse though is like Mario's deck literally has like Mark the Prey in it. So it's like, oh, now their Mark the Prey has go again, which is going to give their next attack go again. Oh my god, Jesus!
Yeah, you're screwed.
Yeah, it
But,
was.
Pretty rough.
I don't think Marionette's good.
Okay. Yeah,
Okay.
that makes
One
sense.
day.
That adds up.
All right.
Our last hero. Oh, no,
Our
there's
second
two.
to last hero.
Whoa!
We saved the best for last.
We saved the best for last.
All
Dark
right,
is a
let
dark
me
forces.
go ahead and cut in on this one. Our big gassy green boy from the swamp, Riptide. Now, this is a hero that at the beginning of this meta, there was a lot of discussion going on about how this was Riptide's time. Assassins, ninjas, and warriors were on the rise. What does that mean? With a rising tide, all ships rise.
Mhm.
And Riptide, he's ready to come and start swinging. What happened? Not much. Turns out he's not really doing all that much. But for the Pro
Yeah.
Tour, it might just be his time to shine.
Top three copium decks. Levia, Dory, Riptide tied for first.
It's always Riptide's time. Like, oh, guys, traps are so good right now.
I'll be real with you. Since I've become a card guy, I think I have had to been talk off the ledge of playing Riptide like 3 times.
Oh, no.
There's
Like-
a theme in the card, guys. We love Riptide.
Like, I'll just get a message one day, hey, what do you think about Riptide right now from Nathan? I'm like, oh, it seems really good. And then we'll test it for like a day. We're like, maybe next time. It's like,
fair.
it's just,
no.
If LSS didn't ban Zephyr Needle, then Riptide might have been playable.
oh, you are.
Yeah, probably true, actually.
You're
Probably
so
true.
close.
You can actually had like the one counter to the broken needle decks was Riptide.
Oh, I'm in shambles, man. That was my
So-
time.
I think he's kind of a dark horse. He's not exactly weak. He isn't preying upon the meta as much as people were hoping. But if you get like a good string of like matchups, you could do great with him.
Put him higher than new. Put him higher than new. Do it.
Oh, God.
Do it.
Yeah, like his worst matchups are the Guardians, and they're not very represented, right?
Put him slightly higher on the new.
I actually think there'll be like a zero amount of Riptide. Like,
No,
I think-
there's going to be some. There's going to be some.
Yeah.
I think there's going to be at least a handful.
But like the issue with Riptide is like, have you played Riptide into Earth Heroes? Holy! Oh my
not
god!
fun.
Dude. I thought Victor
yeah,
was
sure.
bad. Oh my god, dude! I got my butt kicked. They're like, oh, let's play some games on Florian.
No.
Right.
Yeah, it's pretty rough.
But because of the existence of Florian and Verdance, right? Like, you know, in addition to the Guardians, it's just you got a lot of bad matchups.
He's spooky. And it's like the decks you're targeting, like Aurora. Aurora can just kill you randomly with AB.
Yeah, I
It's
think
just like,
Aurora's just like a
All right,
50-50,
you are
so
not
it's not exactly
making-
favored.
A good argument for this hero. Keep dropping him. Next to Mario now.
But if that's the Mario? Oh.
Slightly higher, yeah. I think Riptide is reasonable. If you're bringing Riptide, I think you've made a reasonable choice. But
You are
your Aurora
targeting
matchup is like
Wow.
50-50. You might
got
get
Codex of
smacked by
Frailty.
some bad
Oh, he has
stuff.
Codex of Frailty.
He does have Codex.
Okay, we can't put him down.
down and to the left. No, he's got to go down. He cannot be better than new.
But he's not as potent as I was hoping.
Like
we
he's
have
bad
a lot of
into.
heroes better than new right now.
I
He's
also
got like 6 auto losses. What are you talking about?
I also don't think he's good. Like a lot, like people tell me a lot he's good in the ninja, but then like I watch Zen Riptide games and I'm like,
Well, so that's
but
a
I
little
can,
different.
but like I can trap his tiger swipe. I'm like that doesn't matter. But you're
Also, another negative for Riptide right now is that the Enigma lists are trending towards putting the 10,000 year reunion back in their deck, and that is one of the best ways that Enigma can beat Riptide with. Is just play this giant Ward 10 that doesn't have Go Again or isn't buffed power, so it triggers no traps, and then. Unless the Riptide is like full aggro, if it's like any type of trap Riptide deck, would be pretty difficult to actually clear it. And then Enigma's just going to swing 10 at you
Every turn.
That's
I love
enough,
Big
yeah.
Sledge.
Yeah.
Hold on.
So that's pretty rough. Oh yeah, we got the
Enigma
hammer
10.
for 10.
Okay, he like
Big
literally just
Sledge.
disappeared under all those heroes. So, oops.
That's
Bye
Well,
bye, Riptide. He's under the murky
he's
water.
He's on theme. Yeah, he's
Submarining.
under there.
So much for that rising tide.
Yep. All right.
Yeah.
This is one of the most interesting heroes, I think. This has potential. This hero has potential to be the Hatchet Dory of this tournament. And there may or may not be a small, medium, or large testing team that has been extensively testing this hero and plans to bring it in a moderate amount of copies to the Pro Tour. I would not be surprised if this hero snuck its way into the top tables and, did well. Let me break down this deck a little bit for you. So there's been a little bit of consensus on this deck in terms of what cards are good, what cards are bad, now that we've had 2 months now to test Fang. So typically most Fang decks are built with Kabuto, Grains, Braveforge Bracers, Valiant Dynamos, and 2 Obsidian Fireveins. And typically running somewhere like 45, a couple yellows that you like Saber Bloodshed. That's all you got. And then, 9 to 12 blues. And this is a deck that converts, that tries to achieve 3 fealty very, very quickly. Does run quite a few no blocks. So this does, you know how I feel about no blocks, but this is a deck that's running things like Pledge Fealty, Sigil of Solace, and Tooth of the Dragon.
It's a New Age warrior.
It's a New Age warrior, yes. This is a modern warrior. And basically, as soon as Fang gets online, there is no deck in the game that really can compete with him over like 10 turns. Because the deck has so many reds, and I was asked a long time ago whether or not LSS would ever print a 0-cost warrior weapon, and I said no way, because that is just fundamentally broken. And, well, they have done that with Fang. And basically, once you're online, you're constantly getting value out of your blue 3 blocks. You can keep a hand that has like 3 or 4 reds. And the nice thing is that because you're dual wield, it's very hard to stop all the damage. We saw a very, very beautiful example of this against the Florian in, I believe it was in the German Battle Hardened. And basically, because you can put your attack reaction on either one of the links, and you're running so many attack reactions in the deck, they just get chipped down turn after turn after turn. And even very defensive decks fall to Fang. And then you look at the very, very offensive decks. Like, if you get turned on fast enough, and you basically have a 5 in the corner of your hero box, heroes that like Aurora and Zen, they just cannot keep up because you just have an extra card every single turn.
Yeah, online Fang is probably like the best deck in the game, to be honest.
Yeah, turned on like Fang might be one of the best decks in the game.
It's like how much you have to sacrifice to get there.
Yeah, the issue is that it is not consistent to get to 3 fealty. There are also a lot of random bullshit that just happens to screw you over because fealties are an aura. And you are susceptible a little bit to some forms of disruption. And sometimes your hand blocks for 2. And they play Burn Up Shock, and you're kind of like, eh. But that is mitigated a little bit by just having enough armor, right? So if you, Now, I feel very conflicted between playing Dory or Fang at Pro Tour because I'm way more comfortable with Dory. However, I think Fang is a step stronger than Dory. And I think that his matchup spread is a little bit more favorable. So let's talk about his matchup spread in the top decks. So against Enigma, this is not a super easy matchup, but if you build with some jagged edges, that is quite helpful. And if you draw Fire and Brimstone fairly early, you basically get a guaranteed clear because you can attack with your weapons multiple times. You obviously have to take a giant round of damage to do so, but you can generally clear. So there's that. Now, Enigmas are running a ton of D-React, so it is hard to get them. And Flexors also protects their board once, but Fang probably has the best Enigma matchup right now. You could make an argument for Boltyn. I could see that too. But against Zen and Aurora, same thing. Like Zen is not going to present very many on hits. So as soon as you look at your hand and you're like, okay, this can get 3 fealties, you just take the round of damage and go, and then play the game from there. Maybe you're like 5-6 life behind, but you have armor. Now you're turned on. You have dynamos that are resetting, and then you drag the game out 10 more turns, and then Zen is kind of like, how did I end up 7 points behind when I was like 7 points ahead? It's basically getting ground down by 1 card Hatchet Dory, if you think about it.
His late game is pretty darn impressive.
His late game is fascinating because when you run 45 to 50 reds, every hand you draw is just like, oh my goodness, this is gas. Oh, look, another gas hand. Oh, sweet. Look at that. I could use all these cards. So, yeah, I don't know where to... He's definitely going up in this corner, but he actually might be like more than like 6%. Because there are people that know things.
There's been some whispers about Fangs. Okay, good to know.
I know you want to put him in the contenders, Josh.
I know you want to so bad.
You're so itching to do it.
No.
He would get so much hate mail from someone else.
10% means 40 Fangs. No way.
So I'm thinking in between the Prism and Florian-ish, that kind of range? 6.5-ish?
I think he's like somewhere here.
Okay.
I think he's like somewhere here.
You think he's worse than Kano?
You think he's better than New?
We might have,
Yes.
We might have Kano too high.
No.
Remember our Kano discussion was like people are disrespecting.
Does Fang beat Kano? Probably not, huh?
No.
Okay, so Fang does struggle against like Verdance and Kano are both very, very annoying, obviously. But you can build your deck to like you actually have a decent matchup into all of these, and then you have the high roll ability that very few heroes have. Like I think if you get turned on turn 2, like I don't see how you lose that game. Like sometimes you just stumble into like, oops, I just start with my hero flipped. Sorry. So I don't know. I traditionally Fang does not run poppers, so this might be hard. Dio might be able to outvalue you in a short game, especially if they roll hot. because you can't really block out Dio with the amount of 2 blocks and no blocks in the deck. But yeah, you should do fine in the defensive decks. Like if you meet a defensive deck as Fang, you're pretty heavily favored. Also, I think Fang is probably one of the best decks in Dory, like in terms of warriors.
Well, except for Jarl, right?
Yeah. I mean, Jarl is going to be difficult for Fang because, I mean, you do run enough blues, but getting a Frostbite does hurt quite a bit.
Well, just a channel, like
or channel, like, yeah. Basically, if they put down a channel, your turn descends. But yeah,
right.
I would not be surprised if a testing team came to the conclusion that Fang is good.
Wink, wink.
We'll have to wait and see.
Wink, wink. Don't clip this and take this out of context, guys. I have not convinced these guys to play Fang.
Yet.
Yet.
Now we're going to have a talk, though.
I don't know. I feel pretty convinced.
Yeah, you feel pretty convinced? All right. Yeah. So TLDR, it took a while to come to the correct build of this deck. Sorry, Taylor. It did have glint and scar tissue.
I don't want to talk about... Oh, scar tissue's fine. Scar tissue's fine. That card's just awesome. But glint, though, that's just like, oh...
The Warriors have come to a consensus generally on what this deck looks like. That is one of the weaknesses of the deck, is that you will probably be able to guess 70 of the 80 cards in the Fang deck. So there is that.
It doesn't really matter, though, because like even though you know the potential cards, you don't know like which ones you're going to see. And it's like very, very, very difficult to guess. Like if you don't have a D-React and you're low life, there's like impossible blocking decisions because you almost can never play around Hunt's End. Even if you try to, they can just save it for whichever the first or the second swing that you don't play around it properly enough. You get blown out by Tooth of the Dragon. You don't know if it's going to be 4 or for 5 or for 6, or it's really obnoxious.
Yeah, because like if you're below 5, you can just front pump the first dagger and just kill them at any time.
Like I've said many times that Warriors also have Storm Striders basically, and their Storm Striders, the original Storm Striders was Rout. But yeah, Fang also can just like if you're at life parity with Fang and he's turned on, you're losing the game. So because he'll outvalue you and he'll get that Storm Striders effect at the end of the game. So yeah, dangerous. Although this is a high D-React format, but D-Reacts don't really help you against Fang. It's very counterintuitive because you think, oh, I play D-Reacts against Warrior. Like, okay, now your offense is worse, which means the game goes longer, which means Fang gets turned on and it gets to play a longer game with you. And your D-Reacts don't even cover up things anyways. Like,
yeah, it's usually inefficient.
Yeah. You normally are either over blocking things or not blocking things enough and you leak damage. So, and because Fang can choose which one to put them on, damned if you do, damned if you don't. I think the heroes actually are good.
We think Fang's pretty solid, yeah. I agree. I like Fang. He's better than New.
Yeah.
I love just picking one hero for these to just like shit on the whole time.
Just pick on that one. That's great.
All right. Well, okay. Well, guys, looks like we would go for about 3 hours now. And we've come to the conclusion that
there's 3 really good decks.
There's 3 really good decks. And New Sucks. And Cindra is questionable. But there's like...
There's a lot of
heroes that you could play.
It's very interesting because there's not a lot of what we would say are overrated heroes. So we have 3 very obviously good heroes that most people will probably gravitate towards. And if you are at this point still looking for a hero for some reason, then you should probably just play one of these 3. But there are a lot of heroes that we think are actually solid and have a good shot to make a splash, even though a lot of people won't flock to them and their numbers probably won't be super high. They aren't bad. So we think they're more good underrepresented heroes than there are overhyped heroes right now. But the 3 best heroes are the 3 best heroes by quite a lot.
All right. Quick sanity check. Does this add up to 100?
We have a lot of threes.
Yeah, so let's
and
quickly.
fours.
What was the rule? Don't do math on stream, but we're going to do it. This is what? 26, 36, 43, 53, 63, 70, 75, 80, 85. This is going to go over 100, but I guess. 1, 2, that's 97.
We're accounting for inflation.
Yeah. So we're like 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14.
I mean, and realistically,
We're like at
group,
120%. Okay, so maybe you can shift everything over slightly, but
that whole group should probably like that big purple like dark horse group should probably like be shifted to the left and down by like a point.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah. Something like that.
Something like that. But you get the gist. We're just basically trying to lay out like, okay, if you want to look at like a traditional tier list, you just read from up here down. But if you want to know what Cindra. Just don't play Cindra. People are gonna not listen to us. They're gonna play Cindra.
Oh yeah. One of them might win.
Yeah, maybe. Unlikely, but maybe. I mean, with that much meta share, maybe. Yeah. So I think our conclusion is that this is a fairly open metagame. This isn't one of those Lexi metas where there's a deck that's going to be 24%-ish. Definitely no Starvo meta. So,
all right, who's going to win the Pro Tour?
Willie B.
And then, what
hero?
Excluding picking whatever you yourself is playing and feel like it, whatever. Like,
you know what? If I was going to bet, Kano. $20 on Kano.
I take it. I take it.
$20.
Win.
It's going to be Shoma again on Uzuri.
That'd be awesome.
Oh, Ira. He plays Ira now.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
I think it's probably Zen. If he doesn't LL.
I think realistically it's probably Enigma.
That's a reason.
Oh, Aaron, congratulations. You've done it.
I think for Worlds, I said Viscera would. And it ended up being Enigma.
Yeah.
Which was...
So you need to say Viscera again.
Yeah. So I think Viscera is going to win Pro Tour. No, I actually think... I would say not Aurora is my big bet. But actually, I'm going to say it's Zen. I think it's going to be Zen.
Okay.
You guys could be wrong in like 4 days, but you know, that's all right.
I hope
we'll see.
It's not one of you guys that it's new, so she can be gone faster.
Okay.
Cool.
We'll take it.
If Zen LLs, then I'll say Fang wins Pro Tour.
Oh shit!
Oh
no! Yeah. All right.
It could just be like a random Prism. Who knows?
Yeah,
that'd be funny.
That's kind of the beauty of it, right? This meta is fairly open, and there's a little bit of variance. I mean, in terms of variance, this Pro Tour should have slightly less variance than normal because we are playing 9 rounds of CC instead of 8. So that actually makes me think that maybe we have closer to 450 people than 400. Because as soon as you start crossing certain amounts of people, they want to add an extra round just to have a cleaner cut. So maybe we're looking at a 450-person tournament. But traditionally, Pro Tours have been about 400. So we will see. All right, guys. Any final words before we get out of here?
So very excited to go to London. So very excited to play at the Pro Tour. And if any of you see one of our handsome faces, please come up and say hello.
Yep. Aaron, Taylor, Will, and myself will be in London. If you play us, challenge us if you dare.
Oh, yeah.
And
challenge us for our chips.
Yep. And yeah, we're very friendly people. Come up, say hi to us, chit chat about things, and yeah.
Yeah, I just naturally look like this, so like I'm not like mad or angry. I just look like this.
Unless you beat me, then don't talk to me.
Yeah.
No, just kidding.
Well, here at the Card Guys, we'd like to thank Dragon Shield for sponsoring the team. Also, big shout out to all of our Patreons that you guys have been keeping trips around the world possible. Thank you so much. Yep. Please like and subscribe to the video. If you're still here, like, you clearly like the content, so, go for it. All right. Well, this has been the Chart Guys with our Pro Tour London tier list. See you later. Take care.
Bye.
Hey man, did you get the Kayo deck for Worlds? No one's doing that, okay?
Current played a horse now. Don't kill him. Get greedy. Put him in the middle for now. That's perfect. All right, next year.
RTN champion.
We're gonna have to work a couple more.
Thanks for watching the video.
Here's some more Card Guys videos you might enjoy.
Let me go get some tissues so I don't have to keep getting up.
Sure.
Oh yeah, get a stash.
Yeah.
Let me go get some alcohol so I don't have to keep getting up.
Sometimes my brain just gives me the worst suggestions because I was like, ooh, how can I play off of let me go get some alcohol? My brain was like, say, let me go jack off. And I was like, why would I say that, brain?
Let me go check off so I don't have to keep
Well,
getting
you
up.
do know I've hit record already, right?
What a great intro to the video.
Oh,
We're live.
my God.
We're live on this YouTube.
We'll put it at the end.
I'll
For
take-
anybody still watching.